Chapter 805. Houston. Ever since the atomic clock stagnation phenomenon occurred 4 days ago, the investigation project codenamed Time Thief has finally made progress today. For the first time on the moon, we have come into contact with traces of the same kind of radiation that erupted 50 million kilometers away. This energy is extremely corrosive. See attached document number 23. After measurements, the elemental half-life of this radiation indicates that this residual radiation originated from 2 days ago. Traces of radiation eruption activity from 2 days ago can be seen everywhere on the moon. According to Dr. Martin's judgment, it is highly possible that 2 days ago, with the moon as the center, there was another high-energy radiation eruption. But this time we, who are right next to the moon, did not notice anything. Read, the Special Monitoring Department detected abnormal activity of the special group 2 days ago, relevant information attached to the red document number 3, forwarded to Director Terry Forts. Director Terry Forts' expression was heavy as he stared at the screen in front of him that was emitting a cold light. He flipped to the red document number 3 and suddenly whispered, "Wizard. Muggles? Ridiculous." He threw the screen in his hand away and sneered. "I've studied the stars for 40 years, and now you're telling me that the movement of those celestial bodies, in addition to being dominated by gravity, will also change because of a small, strange wizard on Earth? Those people who call themselves wizards can predict a person's fate based on the orbit of the stars?" He faintly saw the document Harry Potter, the Messiah boy, the mysterious man ushered in his end. The centaur declared that today's Venus is particularly dazzling on the table in front of him. "So, you want to tell me that the Venus perihelion phenomenon 11 years ago was because a newborn boy defeated the great demon king of the wizard world? Or you want to tell me that you can turn the table in front of me into a cat?" Director Terry Forts snapped at the president's envoy who was sitting in front of him with a face full of embarrassment. The president's envoy was also very helpless. At this time, a man in black standing behind him suddenly pulled out a small wooden stick from his pocket. He then mumbled something and swung it forcefully. The oak desk in front of Director Terry Forts disappeared like a sapling in a Category 9 gale. A leopard cat with wood-colored fur and an honest face lay in front of Director Terry Forts. Looking at the dragonly cat, swinging its tail and spinning, Director Terry Forts' expression was wooden. He picked up the documents and pen on the ground and quietly sat back in his chair. He took out a small notebook from his shirt pocket and asked with a pen in it, "What did you just say? Can you say it again?" "That's how you are. You only believe what is in front of you," the man in black said coldly. Terry Forts didn't seem to hear the ridicule. He was seriously reading the documents brought by the president's envoy again. He saw attached document number 23. "I saw a lot of newly formed crystals in these caves. They are about the size of a cave group and at least a dozen kilometers deep. It's unbelievable. These large clusters of crystal prisms were only dry, desolate lunar soil 2 days ago. The new energy crystals look blue, but the instruments tell us that they are actually colorless. The blue color is just the new radiation that is emitted by cosmic rays. These crystals are produced from the large-scale radiation that occurred 2 days ago. That kind of energy shows an energy characteristic that we are almost completely unfamiliar with. It has a strong ability to interfere with matter, but it seems that this ability can be displayed or not at will. The energy should be a kind of dark energy. In its inert state, it almost doesn't react with any matter, but after it is activated, it seems to show any physical characteristics. We used the crystals to test and found that this radiation can be converted into almost any energy we know: electricity, kinetic energy, heat energy, magnetic energy, laser energy, and radiation energy. This is simply a kind of magic. This kind of energy is one of the mediums for the transition from inert to active energy. It turns out that this is human mental activity. The complex brain activity that forms the human spirit has such a magical characteristic. Human brain activity seems to have an indescribable, mysterious connection with that kind of radiation. Dr. Martin believes that this hidden and unknown energy is a special kind of dark energy that can be activated by human mental activity. It is related to some mysterious secrets of the human body and spirit, such as dream, meditation, chi, magic, and even soul. Director Terry Forts flipped to the end of the document, but there was only one sentence at the end. Dr. Martin decided to name this radiation psionic energy, according to its characteristics. The Latin name is... What's the rest of the document? Terry Forts asked as he picked up the document. You can only see up to here. The rest is more important state secrets, the special envoy explained. The presidential envoy explained, but Terry Forts did not back down. If the president wants NASA to investigate what happened in outer space, we can't be left in the dark about the information sent back by the Earth Watchman that landed on the moon the day before yesterday. The special envoy looked at the stubborn director Terry Forts and knew that if he didn't say something, the military-born veteran wouldn't let him go. He said helplessly, "Okay, I can only reveal some general information, what you know. During the research on the psionic crystal, there was a very serious accident. 3 of the 7 crew members died, including the leader of the scientific expedition, Dr. Martin." Leave the moon. Don't come back. Don't come back. Don't study. Don't explore. Chapter 806. Harry's behavior during the day made his 2 friends very worried. Ron followed him for the whole afternoon, worried that he would do something terrible. However, after Harry swore to kill Pettigrew, he seemed to have forgotten about it and behaved normally. After Ron fell asleep, Harry, who was lying on the bed next to him, suddenly opened his eyes. He stood in front of the window and looked at the moonlight outside. He was a little hesitant. Ron, who was lying on the bed next to him, was mumbling something that no one could hear. "Sorry, my friend," Harry said in a low voice, "but there are some things that I have to do alone." He took the golden book of sun from under his pillow, put on the invisibility cloak, and left the dormitory. The sound of footsteps on the empty corridor led to the outside of Gryffindor's lounge. The portrait of the fat woman was dozing off. She seemed to hear a low voice chanting something, but she only saw a white shadow rapidly fading away. Harry easily passed through the door of Gryffindor's lounge under the spiritual world. He quietly felt his way to Filch's office. "When we were students, we once made a very amazing magic tool. This was made by James using the curse of Hogwarts Castle to bypass part of the anti-magic spell of Hogwarts. He fixed the tracing curse on the map. Every student of Hogwarts has a special contract with this great magic school. The Sorting Hat is a very important part of it. When the students are assigned to different schools by the Sorting Hat, they will form a mysterious contract with this castle. When the professors receive the letter of appointment, they will also sign it to confirm their relationship with Hogwarts. There are many mysterious places in this castle. All the wizards who have not signed the contract will be suppressed in some aspects. The wizards who have signed the contract can be monitored by Hogwarts Castle, such as their location. This magic tool is made based on this. It can monitor the movements of the wizards in Hogwarts Castle. James didn't say how he did it, but I'm guessing he found the key items left behind by the previous headmasters. As headmasters, they have the right to use these contracts to bypass the anti-tracking spell on Hogwarts Castle. We injected our thoughts and memories into this magic map to escape from the school's gatekeeper. We wandered around at night. On the map, I was called Moonface, Sirius was called Bigfoot, and your father, James, he was called Prongs, and Peter Pettigrew was called Wormtail. The origin of these nicknames is related to our animagus transformation. In order to alleviate my lycanthropus, James and the others taught themselves animagus. Sirius is a big black dog, so he's called Bigfoot. James is a deer, and Peter Pettigrew is a mouse. You have to know, Potter, that everyone's animagus is related to their character, lineage, and even fate. We didn't notice at the time because Peter Pettigrew was too weak and timid. He was like a little brother following behind James. On the night your father died, I realized that there was a traitor among us. He had sided with Voldemort, but I don't believe it was serious. Listen to me, no one is more loyal than him. That's why he's a big black dog. And the dead Peter Pettigrew, Animagus, is a mouse wizard. Although it's not that we can't trust him. There's betrayal hidden in their souls. When I saw the picture of the mouse on your friend's shoulder, I was even more certain of my judgment. Pettigrew didn't die, and he's been staying by your side recently. I can't tell you what the truth is. It's up to you to investigate and judge for yourself. The Marauder's map left by James can help you. As long as Pettigrew is still hiding in Hogwarts, he won't be able to escape the map's surveillance. But you have to be careful. When Pettigrew appears on the map, he'll be shown as Wormtail. The map can't be deciphered by ordinary reveal spells. You need to raise your wand and say to the map, I solemnly swear that I've done nothing good. After you use it, just say, prank completed. When James was about to graduate, he was caught by Filch once, and the Marauder's map was confiscated. It should be in his office now. Harry gradually approached the door of Filch's office. In his spiritual vision, he could see a ripple of black water behind the door. A suction force came from behind the door. Harry was a little surprised. This was the first time he had seen something that could affect the spiritual realm from the material world. As he walked through the office, he heard Filch's voice. Master. Harry Potter didn't say anything to Dumbledore. The professor's reactions are all normal. The news from the Ministry of Magic is also true. There was indeed a terrifying dark wizard who destroyed the entire Ministry of Magic, causing the Auror to be like stray dogs. Well done, Filch. Harry could clearly tell that this was Malfoy's voice. In the spirit world vision, Malfoy was like a distorted shadow, with a thick shadow like that of a black dragon in the center, wrapped in a transparent, glass-like light. Harry wanted to see this distorted shadow clearly, so he borrowed the power of the Solar Gold Sutra. Malfoy's essence was like a fleeting glimpse. It was a young dragon that was withering, holding a black magic book in its hand. Who's there? Malfoy suddenly became alert. He looked around suspiciously. No one, Master. Under your isolation spell, no one can sneak in, not even Harry with the cloak of invisibility, Filch replied carefully. I can't stay here for too long, Malfoy said with suspicion. He didn't want to say anything else. Be careful, Filch. With that, he turned into a wisp of black smoke and left. It really is the Black Codex of the undead. Harry could already tell. He looked in the direction where Malfoy had disappeared for a while. Only then did Harry come back to his senses. In the past, he would definitely chase after Malfoy to see what he was up to. But now, Harry was tormented by hatred and only wanted revenge. Especially since Pettigrew was not only the traitor who had betrayed his parents, but also Voldemort's soul. Harry didn't know which one he hated more, but he definitely didn't want to give up the chance to kill his two most important enemies in one go. The Marauder's map, fly here. Harry cast a flying spell, but there was no reaction. Harry was not angry. He had long suspected that the map was no longer in Filch's hands. If there was anyone in Hogwarts who knew the most about the things in Filch's office, the mischievous things, the troublemakers, and the nocturnal wanderers, it would be the Weasley twins. The Weasley brothers most likely knew the whereabouts of the Marauder's map, but Harry didn't have much time. Chapter 807. Harry couldn't wait for the day to come. He turned around and returned to Gryffindor's lounge. Ron had told him about the twins' dormitory. He had to call them to a place where there was no one else before he tortured the others. Now that Harry was still in his spirit form, he could easily go anywhere in Hogwarts. He called out to the Weasley brothers from the spiritual world. George! George! In his dreams, Fred furrowed his brows tightly, as if he was somewhat dissatisfied. It was only when a cold breath stimulated his spirit, like cold water, that Fred was jolted awake. His drowsiness disappeared in an instant, and his violent movement almost woke up the others in the dormitory. "George, I need you to do me a favor." "Harry?" Fred asked. He was surprised. "How did you do it? Oh my God! You can actually enter our dormitory. And I'm not George. I'm Fred." Harry choked for a moment. After a while he said, "It's a magical spell, but I'm here for something very important." "Fred, do you know that there used to be a magical map in Filch's office?" "That map? You mean the Marauder's map?" Fred was surprised. "Yes, Fred, you do know," Harry whispered. "It's a magical map made by my father with a tracking spell. I need it now. Do you know where it is?" "Moonface, Wormtail, Bigfoot, and Pointed Fork." "Who's your father?" "We owe them a lot." "You know about it?" Harry was surprised. "Wait," Fred said in a low voice. He hurriedly put on his shoes and ran to George's pillow. George was woken up by his movement. He mumbled, "Can't you go for a night tour later? The professors have been very strict recently." Fred ignored him. He rummaged for a while and found a blank parchment map. The folded parchment was empty. "So it's in your hands?" Harry said in surprise, "Of course, it's our treasure. It's the reason why Filch can't do anything to us. We've caused trouble in Hogwarts countless times," Fred said proudly. "But if it's really left by your father, then he's really our senior. Here, take it. It's time to return it to its rightful owner. We hope you can continue our work." "He's a noble gentleman," Fred said with a sigh. George, who had been listening for a long time, smiled sleepily and said, "What a noble person, working tirelessly to help the next generation of people who violate the school rules. But now you have to be careful." Harry said, "Filch is no longer a squib. Now he has learned a lot of powerful black magic and has turned to Malfoy." "Malfoy?" Fred didn't care. "That's an incredible feat. We weren't afraid of him when he turned to Dumbledore, but now his backer is Malfoy." George said with a smile, "Maybe Filch wants us to laugh ourselves to death, so he can take revenge on us for throwing dung eggs at him while he's drinking tea." Harry did not have much time to waste. He hastily said goodbye to the twins and left the Gryffindor dormitory. Touching the blank map, Harry felt a little depressed. He took out his wand and held it in front of him. "I solemnly swear that I have not done anything good." As he said this, a trace of ink slowly spread on the parchment, drawing the outline of Hogwarts Castle. With Harry in the center, the nearby corridors and rooms were displayed on the parchment. Beautiful cursive words formed the walls on the map, and on them were the ways to open and the secrets of the various secret passages. Harry did not care about the contents that would have made him widen his eyes in the past. He stared at the map, hoping to see the name that he desperately wanted to see. His eyes slid across the layers of names, and finally saw the name that made his blood boil. Harry sneered and put the map away. Peter Pettigrew shuttled through the secret passage leading out of Hogwarts. He planned to go through the secret passage under the Whacking Willow to the Screaming Hut. It had to be said that this haunted house, which was passed down by word of mouth among wizards, was a very good hiding place for wizards who needed to keep secrets. Pettigrew was terrified by Malfoy. He never thought that Voldemort, who was the embodiment of fear in his eyes, would be so easily toyed with by a child from the Malfoy family. Furthermore, Malfoy Jr. had also displayed frightening strength. This even affected his loyalty to Voldemort. Pettigrew was only loyal to a cruel and powerful person, not a loser. Voldemort had obviously seen through his wavering, which made him realize that the fallen Dark Devil was not someone a despicable person like him could betray. He turned into a mouse and escaped through the Whacking Willow, returning to his short, fat, and wretched human form. His body was deathly pale. Even though he had been in a sorry state in the past due to the corrosion of the curse from maintaining the animagus for a long time, he had never looked like this before. His fat body was bloated and pale from being soaked in water for too long. "Master, I'll give you everything, don't." Pettigrew screamed again. His life force disappeared from the back of his head, absorbed by a thick black smoke. The black smoke only let him go after he was on the verge of death. A hoarse voice said, "My servant, I need you to give me your power. Go and steal the life force of others." Pettigrew sobbed a few times before turning into a mouse and sprinting forward. If Ron was here, he would definitely be surprised. Was this skinny and old mouse really the one he had raised for so long? Pettigrew flew out of the secret passage and returned to his human form. The shrieking shack was desolate and old. There was no sign of human presence, as if no one had been here for a long time. Peter was very nervous. He looked around and whispered to Voldemort, "My lord, this is the Shrieking Shack. People say it's haunted, but they don't know it's just Dumbledore's trick. He took in a werewolf to study in Hogwarts, and every full moon, he would return here and turn into a werewolf. Snape was tricked into this shack and almost died, and the one who encouraged him was that idiot Sirius. But in reality, I was the one who encouraged him." Peter snickered disgustingly like a mouse. He said, "Master, Snape can't believe that Dumbledore trusted him so much. There must be a reason. That greasy and dirty boy, when he was young, was very infatuated with James Potter's wife. They used to be very close. But later, James fell in love with Lily at first sight, so he started to play tricks on Snape. Who would like someone who was humiliated by others and was embarrassed every day? So Lily gradually distanced herself from Snape. This made him very sad, especially when he was humiliated in front of the person he liked. Even though Lily often comforted him, Snape's strong pride didn't allow him to get close to Lily. So James got what he wanted. He's really a bad boy. Looks like our Professor Dumbledore wasn't as responsible as he claimed." Voldemort sneered, "Probably because James was his favorite student. When I was in Hogwarts, I didn't do such a thing to the weak. On the contrary, they sought refuge from me. Many of them, including Snape, were very talented but oppressed. I sheltered them. They all became my loyal subordinates. I know these things. Snape told me before. He said that he used to love Lily very much, but when he was being bullied and pursued power, learning black magic, Lily didn't understand. Afterwards, they completely broke up, because love couldn't protect him, but black magic could." Voldemort sneered. Peter Pettigrew sneered. He knew that he couldn't shake Voldemort's trust in Snape at the moment, but he believed that one day these words would have the desired effect. Now was not the time to go any further, so he changed the topic. "James is a complete scoundrel. Even though he and the Order of the Phoenix say that they are doing it for justice, but when they were young, they weren't as honorable as they say they are. They are a group of scoundrels who formed cliques and bullied wizards who didn't fit in with the group. James thought that I admired him and willingly followed behind them like a servant. But he didn't know that I only joined them because I was afraid of being bullied and pushed aside by them. I know them, Lupin, Sirius, and Potter. They don't think highly of me. In their eyes, I was always the yes man. Of course, they also paid the price for it." At this moment, a spell shot out from the side, and the wand in Pettigrew's hand was knocked away. He was also bounced up high and fell heavily on the ground, smashing a broken chair beside him. "Shut up!" An angry roar reached Peter Pettigrew's ears. Chapter 808. "Shut up! You are a liar with a mouth full of lies, a shameless person." Harry walked out of the spirit realm like an enraged lion and appeared in front of Peter. He raised his wand and pointed it at Peter. His eyes were filled with killing intent. "I forbid you to insult him, you traitor. Do you think such shameless slander can appease your conscience? No, it will only make the flames of righteous vengeance burn even more fiercely." Harry's eyes were filled with hatred. "You killed my parents, you and the mastermind behind you. I'm glad I can catch all of you. I will not let you die so easily. People will pay for what they have done. Slander? Pettigrew did not beg for mercy. He laughed. No slander, Harry, no slander. I will not slander your arrogant and disgusting father. People will always pay for what they have done. So, James died in the hands of the dark devil. If you believe that your father is kind and righteous, why don't you steal his soul for me to see? Harry calmed down and revealed a mocking smile. You want me to steal your soul? Are you hoping that the mysterious person behind your head can turn the tables under the soul-snatching curse? You want him to take the opportunity to enter my mind and use his memories of murder, hatred, and terror to defeat me, right? Heart-burrowing curse. The heart-burrowing curse hit Pettigrew, causing him to roll on the ground in pain. Peter shouted, Well done, Harry, well done. We did not learn the unforgivable curse when we were in 2nd grade. You will become the new dark devil. Harry, you have the potential because you have a part of Lord Voldemort's soul. You are not only the son of James and Lily, but also the son of Lord Voldemort, his soul vessel. Heart-burrowing curse. Harry angrily cast the heart-burrowing curse again. Lord Voldemort and I are irreconcilable. I will kill him. I will make him disappear from this world forever. Then kill yourself first. Pettigrew shouted, Can't you feel it? Your scar is hurting. Don't you often see other illusions? Can you still converse with snakes? Harry was stunned when he heard this. Peter Pettigrew took the opportunity to say, Do you still not understand? Serpentine was the symbol of the Dark Devil King. It was an ability possessed by his bloodline. It came from the great bloodline of Slytherin. Your scar is not only a memento that the Black Devil King left for you, but it is also his imprint and carries the imprint of his soul. You grew up under the influence of the Black Devil King's evil and powerful soul. You were born to be a devil. Even if all the souls of the Black Devil King are dead, he can be resurrected in your body. Harry touched the wound that was throbbing in pain. A wave of dizziness caused his consciousness to blur. Vaguely, he saw a blurry gray image in front of him. In the image, there was a familiar figure standing in front of him. As the camera swayed back and forth, Harry saw the figure clearly. It was himself, holding his wand in a daze. He saw the thrower raise his hand, wanting to do something to him who was in a daze. He quickly snapped out of it and cast a heart-piercing curse. Dwarf cried out in pain, and the magic that he had secretly prepared could no longer be released. Harry was in great pain. He suppressed his roar and roared, I'll kill you! Dwarf seemed to be fearless in the face of danger. He growled, Then come. I died, but so did you. The only one who survived was Voldemort. When you kill me, you will also kill yourself, the kind version of yourself. You will become the person you hate the most. Voldemort will resurrect in your body. Come, kill me. Dwarf keenly caught a trace of wavering in Harry's eyes. He pressed on. You don't understand your father, Harry. The people around you beautify him too well. But in reality, Snape can testify that he is a bad boy from head to toe. He bullied and humiliated his loner classmates. He made them play nasty jokes and pranks on them. He can torture and humiliate your mother because he likes her. Snape, who has the best relationship with your mother and loves her, causing him to lose face in front of your mother. How do you think Snape treats you? He humiliates and ridicules you. But it's not even 1/100th of what your father did to him. And to someone like Snape, it's just a coincidence. You should understand this feeling. Pettigrew's voice became bewitching. His words reminded Harry of his cousin Dolly. In elementary school, Dolly had led a group of people to hurl insults at him, tear up his books and textbooks, and tear up his school uniform. He's not a good person. It's true that the professors like him because he's excellent in his work, the students like him because he's passionate, he has a few loyal friends, and he's the ball seeker for the Quidditch team. But for some people, he's also a nightmare. Do you know that in this room, Snape was almost killed by his friend, the Lupin you might know. And the reason was a prank played by your father and his friends. They threw those unsociable little wizards onto trees and pulled out their underwear, letting the person they liked see the scene. Snape once wanted to commit suicide. The reason why he threw himself into the arms of the Dark Devil was because he wanted to obtain power to punish that naughty father of yours, or to not be bullied by him. He succeeded. James fought back and forth with him, but with the help of a few of his friends, James always had the upper hand. However, he also failed. Lily was completely disappointed in him and left him. I dare say that when James died, Snape didn't have any sorrow or regret in his heart. If there was, it was for Lily. Your father, in a way, is a demon, Dwarf said, and he has no apologies toward Snape. He has no remorse for what he did. He's such a villain. Even when Snape was about to die, he was only afraid that the school would expel him. He saved Snape so that he wouldn't be expelled. That's only your side of the story, Harry said with a trembling voice, a lie that a traitor wants to absolve himself. Why don't you use soul search? Look at my memory. Pettigrew sneered. I'm not a traitor, because I've never been loyal to your father. I'm just a weak, chubby little sorcerer who fawned over your scumbag father so that he wouldn't bully me. Naturally, when he can no longer protect me, I'll turn to someone stronger. I've always done this. How is this betrayal? In my eyes, there's no difference between your father and Voldemort. One is a demon in the school, and the other is the dark devil of the magic world. They're doing the same thing. Moreover, the dark devil didn't bully the isolated wizards in the school. In this aspect, he's even more frank than your father. The dark devil waved his magic wand towards the powerful order of the magic world. Your father relied on the Order of Hogwarts to bully the weak, while Dumbledore represented Hogwarts and turned a blind eye. That's why Snape relied on the dark devil. In his eyes, the dark devil might be more straightforward than Hogwarts. Wake up! Harry, you have that scum's blood and Voldemort's soul in your body. You're destined to become a dark wizard. Go to hell! The concept in Harry's mind was strongly impacted. He originally came to kill Pettigrew with a heart of justice, but now he connected the bullying he received at Dolly's house with Pettigrew's words. The appearance of his father in his memory overlapped with that of Dolly, who took the lead in bullying him, and his fragile worldview collapsed. He raised his magic wand. He no longer held a righteous heart, but purely for revenge. He roared at Dwarf, Avada Somi! Surrender your weapon! A female voice that Harry was very familiar with suddenly sounded. Harry was caught off guard, and the magic wand in his hand flew out. He turned around and saw a witch with her face covered in a scarf standing behind him, pointing her magic wand at him. For some reason, he felt that this witch was very familiar to him, but he clearly had no impression of her. The witch held her magic wand and seemed to be pointing at both Harry and Dwarf at the same time. Her hand that was pointing at Harry was a little hesitant. She looked at him with a very complicated expression. There was nostalgia, sadness, murderous intent, and affection. She was silent for a long time before saying in a changed voice, You can't kill him. He has to be judged by the Ministry of Magic. I must know her, Harry thought. He opened his mouth and said trial. Why didn't the Ministry of Magic approve when he killed my parents? Oh, right, they were busy giving him the Merlin Medal. Why didn't the Ministry of Magic approve when Sirius was wrongly accused, and twice at that? The first time they were eager to convict him, and the second time they wanted to cover up the mistake. Hand him over to the Ministry of Magic again, and wait for them to give him the second Merlin Medal. Chapter 809. But that's not a reason for you to kill them, Harry. The witch looked into Harry's eyes and said in a heavy tone, You had better options to punish them, but you chose the worst one. You're only 12 years old, but you already want to kill people. If you trust Dumbledore and us, then you should let the law punish them instead of staining your hands with blood. Dumbledore? Harry suddenly understood and whispered, Did Dumbledore send you here? Then I must know you. I used to think that Dumbledore was a great wizard, but in fact he's just an ordinary old man. He didn't play a role in the failure of the Ministry of Magic and the slander of Sirius. Malfoy is right. Dumbledore is old, Harry whispered. How can you think like that, Harry? The witch screamed. He's always been protecting you. Protect? Dumbledore can't even defeat Voldemort. If he's really as good as you say, then he wouldn't have made my parents sacrifice their lives to send Voldemort to hell. He can solve this problem by himself. Harry said angrily, Ever since I came to Hogwarts, you've been telling me how terrible and cruel Voldemort is. He's the nightmare of the magic world. Many wizards don't even dare to say his name after his death. I worshipped Dumbledore like a hero and treated him as my family. But when I saw Malfoy holding Voldemort's soul in his hands and strangling him like a little chicken, I realized that you've overestimated Dumbledore. Voldemort is just a cruel dark magus, and Dumbledore, he's just an ordinary light magus. It's because you're too weak, not because Voldemort is too scary. If you only rely on Dumbledore, you'll end up as mediocre weaklings like you, unable to even protect your loved ones when they're hurt. Placing your hopes on Dumbledore is no different from holding on to a beautiful hope. You hope that Dumbledore will save you and resist evil, but in reality, we can only count on ourselves. I won't place any hopes of revenge in the hands of others. People can only rely on themselves. Harry raised his right hand and said to the witch, Get out of my way! Don't stop me from getting my revenge, or we'll be enemies. Harry, said the witch sadly, so this is what you have become. I thought I could stop everything in time. She sobbed. Why? Is there anything more important to you than your family and friends? I don't have a family anymore. Harry said calmly, I just want to correct the mistakes that have happened and undo the tragedy of the past. You'll never know what you'll become if you continue down this path. Or should I call you the future fourth Dark Devil, Lord Harry Potter? Everyone loves you, but if you continue down this wrong path, you won't know how much you'll regret it in the future. You will cry in front of your best friend's corpse, even if he died in your hands. You will personally kill the teachers of the past, execute the classmates of today, and leave corpses at your feet. You will be tormented by your conscience day and night. You will be in agony and restlessness. So, what is it that keeps me going? Harry asked coldly. What? The witch looked at Harry in surprise. Harry repeated, Since I'm in so much pain, what is it that keeps me going on this path? Is it power? Is it power? Is it hatred? Is it because I was born to be such a cruel person? Or is it because I was influenced by Voldemort's soul fragment? The witch looked at his scar and whispered, So you already know. Harry looked at the witch and asked in a low voice, Who are you? I can't tell you, but I have to stop you today. I have to stop you from making more mistakes. The witch raised her wand. I already know, Harry said calmly. He raised his right hand and looked at the confused witch. I seem to have guessed why I can persevere, because I want to make up for the regrets that have passed, right? The witch shuddered. Her hand that was holding the wand trembled slightly. She already knew what a huge mistake she had made. She thought that she could organize it, but now she realized that she might just be the cause of it all. Today, it was not only Peter Pettigrew who caused Harry to transform, but she as well. She said in a trembling voice, Perhaps everything is irreversible. I know why I can do all these things. Perhaps everything can be reversed. As long as I do what I want to do, the tragedies that happen to me and to you can be reversed. That's right, you told me the most important piece of information. The Golden Sun scripture really can resurrect the dead. That's why I killed those friends who tried to stop me. I'm sure that after I achieve my goal, I can bring them back. But you've already killed them once. The witch roared. Harry raised his hand and released a disarm spell. However, the witch dodged the spell the moment he moved his shoulder. Faint and fall to the ground. The witch fought back angrily. Both of their spells flew back and forth in the screaming shack. The rays formed by the spells intertwined in the air. Pettigrew wanted to run away, but most of the spells that Harry shot out would land beside him. Sometimes they would hit him and cause him severe pain. The level of magic spells of the two was unexpectedly strong. The witch was also very surprised by Harry's level of using the disarm incantation. Harry could always rely on these incantations to escape at the critical moment. This was the reason why he could still fight back and forth with her, even though his incantation and magic level was not as good as the witch's. Shadowless Blade. The witch forced Harry to retreat. Suddenly, her right hand, which was not holding the wand, opened up. She made a hand sign and shouted in a low voice, "Sluggish ray!" The cone-shaped ray was too fast for Harry to dodge. He was suddenly sprayed on the right side of his body. His body was like a machine that had not been oiled. Harry retreated in fear. The witch followed up with another attack. However, when she got close to Harry, he suddenly turned into sand and flew towards the witch's face like a whirlwind. Caught off guard, the witch was forced to retreat. Her scarf was blown away by the sand. Looking at the familiar yet strange face that appeared in front of him, Harry suddenly froze. There was a look of shock in his eyes. The witch took the opportunity to hit him with a petrification spell. Harry was petrified on the spot. His face was full of disbelief. He stared straight at her. The witch removed part of the petrification from his head. Harry's voice trembled. "Hermione? How could it be you?" The adult Hermione's eyes were red. Her mature face was beautiful and beautiful. She said in a low voice, "I used magic to straighten my teeth and change my hairstyle. In the 6th grade, after you killed Dumbledore." After that, Hermione was a little reluctant to talk about it, but she still told the cruel truth. "A lot of things happened. The Weasley family opposed you, but you always tolerated them. This is also the reason why we always had hope in you. Until Ron did something that you could not tolerate. You killed him. You've completely become the 4th Dark Devil King, imposing a high-handed rule on the world of magic, forbidding all wizards from coming into contact with muggles, forbidding them from marrying, coming into contact with, and getting to know each other. You wish for the world of magic to return to its pure past, just like Voldemort. You even made a prophecy that if wizards come into contact with muggles again, the entire world of magic will be destroyed. I had to stop you, Harry." Hermione cried. "I thought you changed in the 2nd grade when you killed Pettigrew with your own hands. At that time, you started to become cold and cruel. I thought I could stop you, so I used the time converter to return here. But I was wrong." Hermione raised her wand and placed it between Harry's eyebrows. Her hands were trembling, and her face was full of tears. "I had no choice." Harry's eyes were calm and warm. He said in a low voice, "Don't be sad, Hermione. Everyone has their own fate." Hermione's wand trembled even more violently. She could barely hold the wand in her hand. Peter Pettigrew whispered from behind, "The past can't be changed. You must have not done anything," which led to what happened later. "Shut up." Hermione cast a heart-gouging spell on him, causing him to roll and wail. Hermione's magic was not something the underage Harry could compare to. Pettigrew had to roll for at least half an hour. Harry looked at the struggling Hermione and said in a low voice, "I want to ask you a question. Did I succeed in the end?" Hermione knew exactly what Harry was asking. Guilt made her tell the truth. You could say it was a success, but it wasn't a complete success. Dumbledore's most trusted person betrayed him and helped you to kill him. You obtained the Black Scripture of the Dead from his hands, plus the Golden Scripture of the Sun and the Life Stone in your hands. With Snape's help, you used the Black Scripture of the Dead to summon your parents' souls back, and used the Golden Scripture of the Sun to resurrect Lily Evans. But when you resurrected your father, Snape turned against you. He cursed your father's soul and made it into a mummy. He couldn't be resurrected. You killed him and imprisoned his soul in the astronomy tower. Your mother often visited him. Later, you always wanted to resurrect your father, but he was cursed by Snape and became a bloodthirsty, cruel monster. When he attacked Jenny, Ron burned his soul with fire. You killed Ron. Harry, you became a cruel monster. Hermione caressed Harry's face and whispered in his ear, "At that time, we didn't even know you." "Give up. Harry, the dead have already returned to their home. If you force yourself to stay, you will only be cursed. Your mother lived a very painful life." Harry's mouth trembled slightly, revealing an ugly smile. Hermione looked puzzled. Then her expression changed dramatically. She clutched her stomach and fell to the ground. On Harry's chest, the golden scripture of the sun shone with a golden luster, dispelling the petrification curse. Harry looked at Hermione, who was in disbelief and despair, and said in a low voice, "It's not right, Granger." Hermione looked at him in pain. She watched as Harry pulled out his wand and pointed it at Peter Pettigrew. Peter laughed in despair. "You will eventually become me, Harry. You will become someone like me. Ignite." A flame curse made the souls of Pettigrew and Voldemort burn together. Chapter 8-10. Hermione's eyes were filled with grief and despair. Harry turned to her and explained, "No matter what, Hermione, I will always treat you as my best friend. I will never create new tragedies just to save some tragedies. I think the future is not necessarily predestined, right? If the future me really did such a terrible thing, he must have a reason to do so." He undid Hermione's petrification spell and turned away from the screaming shack, leaving his back to her. Hermione took out her wand and pointed it at Harry's vest, but she could not make up her mind. She put down the wand and covered her face with her hands, crying loudly. It was not until Harry was out of Hermione's sight that the luster of the golden sun scripture in his arms dimmed. "She still can't bear it, can she?" Harry sighed, not knowing who he was talking to. "It's time." Harry thought. He re-entered the spirit realm and looked at Hogwarts through the gray vision. "It's time to end it all." Harry looked at the golden sun scripture in his hand and said, "When did everything change?" "From the day I got you last semester, when I saw the Sorcerer's Stone, I understood a truth. Real treasures will only come back to you when you don't crave for them. I lost you, Mom and Dad, but I also gained some sincere friends, sincere friendships. I can't lose the treasures I have because I crave for what I don't have. I'm sorry, Mom. Dad." Harry's face was full of tears. He tried to close the golden sun scripture with trembling hands. His expression showed that he was struggling. Finally, he closed the golden magic book. Hearing the click of the lock, Harry felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. He suddenly felt someone hugging him, and the soft touch from his back woke him up. Then he quieted down. "How did you get in here?" Harry asked. "In the future, in order to kill you, I developed this spell. It allows me to walk in the spirit realm," Hermione whispered. She changed the topic shyly. "So this is what the spirit realm looks like at this time. It looks like a mirror that has lost its sense of light. What will the spirit world look like in the future?" Harry asked curiously. "It is colorless, a world of ashes. Back then, in order to rule the world of magic, you used the power of the two scriptures to control this place. You blocked the way for souls to return to their homes. Ghosts wander here, muggles and wizards approach this world in their nightmares. This place is full of twisted, horrifying shadows. At that time, this place was called the Nightmare Realm. There's one last thing I need to do," Harry said as he raised his head. "Close the necromancer's black scripture in Malfoy's hands," Harry said. "Then go to Mr. Birkin's place and throw away the key. Make sure that these two magic books are never opened again." Malfoy did not stay in the dormitory. Over the past few days, he would come to the Forbidden Forest every night. He had obtained a lot of black magic knowledge from Voldemort's soul when he was young, and the power of the necromancer's dark scripture allowed him to grow stronger every day. Becoming an animagus of the dark dragon allowed his magic to grow to its full potential. Over the past few days, when he rinsed his mouth, Malfoy could not help but spit out some dragon fire from his throat. He enslaved souls and began to touch his own soul with magic, even modifying his own brain. Foolish Voldemort. Malfoy laughed coldly. Splitting your own soul is practically suicide. It's easy to break through the limits of the physical body, but it's even more difficult to break through the limits of the soul's lifespan. Splitting your own soul like this is practically suicide. Even if you don't fall into my hands, your emotions, memories, and even intelligence will slowly disappear. In the end, you will be no different from the memories in the portrait. You might even be inferior to a ghost. He looked at the dusty crown in his hands and asked in a low voice, "How many soul armaments do you have, Lord Voldemort?" The diary was destroyed by the mysterious new Black Devil King, and the soul in it fell into my hands. The defeated maimed soul hid itself, and no one knows where it went. It attached itself to that snake. Just now, that snake started a fire and was burned to ashes. Ravenclaw's crown is in my hands. Hotspark's gold cup, which you gave to that crazy woman. I don't even want to call her aunt to safekeep. It should be in the hands of the Black Devil King now. Right? There's also that locket and ring that have gone missing. I'll find them. You've suffered a crushing defeat, Voldemort. Malfoy flipped open the Black Book of the Dead in his hands, and 5 pale white lamps surrounded him. Your soul will become my power. I will make you into a wand that will condense all of your power and intelligence. Farewell. Mystery Man, he chanted the ancient Egyptian language softly and used silver and gold to draw 2 closed arcs on the ground, forming a circular circle. The 5 lamps were placed at the 5 corners of the circle, forming a pentagram within the circle. Positive and negative energy formed a closed loop, forming a small energy cycle. This was the simplest structure of the well, but it drew in a wisp of energy from the well of eternity, forming a complicated magic structure in the air in front of Malfoy. I will use the positive and negative energy that symbolizes white magic to form the Ouroboros model in alchemy, which symbolizes the cycle of matter and energy. It will open a path to the pyramid, purifying your soul into a simple fragment without any consciousness. Malfoy picked up the crown on the ground and stroked it gently. This is the magic that the ancient Egyptian high priest sacrificed to the god of death. It can erase the souls of the undead, but the high priest will not devour the souls sacrificed to the god of death. A calm voice came from behind Malfoy. Harry and Hermione were taking off their invisibility cloaks. Hermione still had her scarf covering most of her face. She raised her wand and pointed it at Malfoy's heart. Harry Potter? Malfoy laughed coldly. I didn't think you would rush over to see me. Wasn't the lesson from that night enough? I know what you're relying on. That magic book you stole from Borgin Bork's magic shop, the greatest masterpiece of the ancient Egyptian wizards, the Black Book of the Dead. Harry also took out his wand. Malfoy's face twitched, and he laughed coldly. I didn't steal anything. Chapter 8:11. Harry must have gone to find Pettigrew. Hermione said to Ron, panting, You should have come to me as soon as you found out he wasn't there. It was still night time. How could I go to the girls' dormitory? Ron felt wronged. So where are we going to find him now? Ron asked hesitantly. Let's go find Dumbledore first and ask him to stop Harry. How could he send someone to find Pettigrew? That's a murder who killed half the people on the street. Hermione stopped a passing classmate and asked, Have you seen the headmaster? He's not in the headmaster's office now. The Ravenclaw girl replied calmly, Professor Dumbledore just went to the observatory. Hermione hurried to the observatory. Ron followed her up the astronomy tower. It was the highest point in Hogwarts and could see the whole school. Hermione saw Dumbledore's phoenix from the window. The phoenix spread its wings and soared, bathing in the morning light. As soon as they reached the observatory, they heard Dumbledore's voice from above. "Professor Chin, it's not surprising to see you here." Through the gap in the stairs leading to the observatory, Hermione saw Dumbledore standing opposite Hogwarts. The morning breeze blew his hair and made his long beard dance on his chest. Chenong stood opposite him. Indeed, you can see further when you stand at a higher place. Chenong, who was standing at the observatory window, looked at the vigorous black dragon soaring over the forbidden forest in the distance and smiled. "It's hard for me to imagine that the new Dark Devil is standing in front of me. This should be our second meeting. Your Excellency Morgoth, the first time we met at the Ministry of Magic, you gave me a lot of trouble. Sirius was swallowed by the darkness in front of me. In the face of such an abyss, I couldn't save him. I'm curious why the Dark Devil is always watching the school." Dumbledore sighed. "I thought there was finally a Dark Devil I didn't know. Maybe this is a place blessed by fate." Chenong joked, and although some people insist on calling me the Black Devil King, that's because they need a Black Devil King. Otherwise, they won't be able to adapt. But I don't think you need to be like that. You can just call me by my name. After all, you should always use the correct name for things. The fear of a name will strengthen the fear of the thing itself." Dumbledore blinked his eyes and sighed. "I thought it was a private conversation, but I've cast a spell on the name Voldemort so that I can always know what people are talking about when they mention this name." Chenong lied without blushing, but it was obvious that Dumbledore believed him. He took a deep breath. "It seems that people's cautious wisdom has its own brilliance. I should also call him Mysterious Man. You see, this is the reason why I dare not call you by your name. I don't want you to drag me into the abyss while sitting on my thick-backed chair when I accidentally mention it. Of course, the title of Dark Devil is far from worthy of you. After all, compared to you, the previous two Dark Devil Kings were more like cruel dark wizards. And you, Lord Morgoth, I still don't understand your purpose." Dumbledore stared at Chenong and whispered, "Everyone has their own purpose, and your actions make me puzzled. Hiss!" After Ron heard the conversation between the two, he took a deep breath. The corners of his eyes twitched, and he reflexively covered his mouth before he could make a louder sound. He desperately winked at Hermione. Hermione looked at Chenong, who was standing by the window of the observatory, and heard him say, "I want to save this world." Even Dumbledore, who had a good temper, was angered by this sentence. He shook his head and said, "Dark Devil, even a child who just entered Hogwarts wouldn't believe this answer. But this happens to be the truth." Chenong smiled and said, "Of course, for you, this goal may not be friendly. The whole process must be cruel, making life worse than death. For this goal, I don't know how many people have been sacrificed. Corpses are everywhere, and there is no future." Chenong looked at Dumbledore and asked, "Do you feel that this world goes round and round? Some things that have just happened seem to have happened a long time ago, and even the future is a little boring to you, as if all fate has long been arranged. Have you ever doubted the reality of this world? Is it really like what you think it is? Are the past and the future real? Your fate, is it trapped in a trap that goes round and round?" Mr. Xenophilius, the editor-in-chief, also raised such doubts, but he attributed it to a magical animal called the prophecy fly. It is said that this magical creature can enter the dreams of wizards and tell them the future they foresee. Unfortunately, because of the dream fly, we forget everything after we wake up. A child named Luna firmly believed in what her father said. Thanks to the cork necklace she gave me for Christmas, I haven't been bothered by the Pegasus for a long time. Chenong raised his hand, and an eye-like celestial body appeared in the morning sky. 50 million kilometers away from Earth, the moon gathered the powerful energy it radiated and appeared in the sky during the day. The Muggles in London looked at the full moon that refused to sink in the sky. It was bigger than usual by half. The tide of arcane energy brought by the moon carried Chinong and Dumbledore back to the upper reaches of the timeline. In the blink of an eye, they went through the past of Harry Potter getting the Sorcerer's Stone, getting on the train to Hogwarts, Hagrid going to visit, and receiving the Hogwarts admission notice, letters raining down from the sky, all the way to the moment when Harry went to the zoo and met the Brazilian python. Chun-Ong stood on the dividing line of this moment, looked at the timeline further ahead, and said to Dumbledore, "Do you think that the past in front of you really exists?" Dumbledore's face was solemn. He looked downstream at the lifelike past and saw Chun-Ong brush past that timeline. In the blink of an eye, the clear past became blurry like a mirror. That is a cosmic fragment. It is the shadow of the present, past, and time. Time is a strange thing. A person, a world cannot not have a past, but it may be like other possible futures, sharing a real past. Dumbledore, who was the headmaster, Dumbledore, who was not the headmaster, and Dumbledore, who was still the Transfiguration professor, they all share the past of Dumbledore, who just came to Hogwarts. Chapter 812. Then what was the real past like? Chun-Ong continued to lead him forward, bypassing the illusory universal fragment, and arrived at the real memory of this world. Dumbledore saw himself falling under the blade of a person wearing a complicated metal mechanical armor. Behind that person, there were even more people in strange clothes. He saw Voldemort die under the curse of the dissipation of his soul. He saw Snape being pulled to the final resting place of his soul by a huge spiritual body that was called the Grim Reaper by those people. He saw Ron die tragically under a huge fireball spat out by a mysterious person. He saw that person pinching his fingers and shouting in Japanese, "Fire release! Great fireball technique!" Further up, there was a new group of guests, and it was a new cycle of death, injury, and conspiracy. He saw all the living beings in this world struggling bitterly, saw himself falling down thousands of times, saw the end and beginning of the cycle again and again, and the memories of countless cycles of reincarnation surged into his mind. They were real, and the pain pierced his heart. The world's memories that Chun-Ong recalled with arcane magic were terrifyingly real. The memories of countless Dumbledore and countless cycles of reincarnation made Dumbledore, who was beside Chun-Ong, almost collapse. His personality fell into chaos. Out of a bad taste, Chun-Ong also put in a piece of memory that he had collected. Dumbledore shouted, "Morgoth! Leave this world. The Supreme Ring must be destroyed. Sauron has returned. The Middle-earth will fall into darkness again. Why are the Silmarils in this world? Morgoth, is that the one I know? Waterdeep City has become Morgoth's evil nest. Neverwinter has been destroyed. If the good forces of the Faerun continent do not unite, the tragedy that happened in our world will be repeated. I will reorganize the Guardian Diamond team. Be careful of the power of the One Ring. I am Gandalf. After the battle in the Middle-earth, with the help of the remaining power of the Holy Tree, we came to a new world. That is the world that Morgoth's claws are watching. 3 Silmarils, one rose to the sky as a star, and one fell into the underground world. No, I am Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts. My world is being invaded. Dumbledore opened his eyes. He was panting, and the beard on his chest was drenched in sweat. He looked at Chun-Ong in horror and said, "Morgoth, so you came from there? Are you going to corrupt this world again?" Dumbledore roared, his long beard trembling violently. "Calm down." Chun-Ong said calmly, "Don't forget, this world is still under someone else's control. The memories of being manipulated by others and being constantly erased. Think about it. Even if I control this world, can it be more tragic than now?" Chun-Ong asked. Looking at Dumbledore, who was gradually becoming silent, he explained, "Now we have a common goal. You should have seen through the essence of this world. It has been cut off by someone. Through reincarnation after reincarnation, you steal the power of your original universe. Your world is like a book." Unknowingly, Chun-Ong had returned to the observatory. Looking at the peaceful Hogwarts outside the window, it was as if everything that had happened before was a fake memory inserted by the soul-assimilating spell. If one ignored the fierce battle in the Forbidden Forest, Hogwarts was like a pure land. Chin Ong pointed his finger, and a thick English book appeared in his and Dumbledore's hands. If the words on the cover were translated, it would be Harry Potter 1-7 collection. That existence intercepted a part of the timeline. This is the book. It has a beginning. Chen Ong flipped the book open, and Dumbledore did the same. He looked at the words and sighed with an ugly expression. Everything that has happened is the plot of the book. That existence has been constantly adding new characters into the book. This way, every time you finish reading this book, the next time it will be a new plot. It will also be a new book. It is also using this to steal the power of the complete universe that you once lived in. I have studied the tens of thousands of reincarnations that this book has experienced, and found that the end of the content of the book requires a few requirements. First, the plot must be complete, which is to end the cause and effect. At the end of the story, whether it is good or bad, everything that happened in between will have an end and an answer. Second, the key characters die, which is you, Harry Potter, Hermione, Ron, Snape, Voldemort, and others. If more than half of them die, especially Harry Potter and Voldemort. Third, time. At a certain time, even if the story has not ended, it will be forcibly stopped and reincarnated. If you want to save this world, you cannot directly fight against that existence, because in front of it, you are as insignificant as an ant. And I will not help you, because it will not benefit me in any way. What do you need? Dumbledore raised his head and asked tiredly, "Did you feel the huge energy that I opened up in outer space?" Chen Ong asked in return, "I can even create that thing. What else in this world can satisfy my needs? Apart from this matter itself, I am not interested in anything else," Chen Ong said. "I just want to create a world, a civilization, a complete world in the form of a Mobius loop on the timeline. A normal world should be a continuous extension of the timeline, but what I want to see is a world that is continuous extension of the time dimension. But in the timeline, fate, which is the dimension of time plus one, it is a ring-shaped world. Every cycle is a new beginning, a world where the files are deleted, but the characters are not, a civilization established in a cycle of time. In this world, death does not exist because when the next cycle begins, everyone will be resurrected. In this world, time travel is very easy, and there can be countless you in the same cycle. Only such an interesting experiment is worth my effort." Dumbledore understood his words and said in a low voice, "You want this time, the end of the book, to become the next, the beginning of the book. We live in a book of some being, and every time it is turned, it becomes a similar but new book. The next time it is turned, new variables are added. And you want the story of this book to return to the beginning with the last change before he finishes reading this book, so that in the hands of that existence, there will be a book that will never be finished." Chapter 813. A claw that could cover half of Harry's body lashed out at him. Harry, who was trying his best to dodge, felt a gust of wind as sharp as a steel knife as it brushed past his body. The claw, covered in dark black dragon scales, tore through the armor curse that Hermione had cast on Harry. Harry felt his right side burning, as if blood was seeping out from the surface of his skin. Harry spun around like a top before crashing into a tree and coming to a stop. His ribs were burning, and he was not sure how many of them were broken. "Malfoy!" Harry roared. "You have no idea how dangerous that book is. It's controlling your soul." "My soul?" Malfoy, who had turned into a dragon, mocked. "You know nothing about the power of the Black Scripture of the dead. Harry, you stole that book too, didn't you?" The black dragon's face showed a vivid expression of mockery. He looked Harry in the eye and said, "Otherwise you would not know where I obtained the Black Scripture of the dead. So, the golden scripture of the sun is in your hands." Harry was silent, but Malfoy laughed maniacally. "You shameless thief! Harry, Can't you resist the desire to steal? If a poor man like you doesn't steal, how can you live like this? Dad was right. Every pauper is a potential thief. You also obtained one of the two scriptures, but you did not put in the effort to pursue the power of these two books. I'd bet, Harry, that you did not even consult the professors about the magical knowledge in these two books. This is the difference between you and me, Harry. Opportunities are only given to those who are prepared. You cannot imagine the power of that book. That is the power to open the door to the world of darkness. It is the power of the world's oldest existence of darkness. Now, let me show you the difference between us. Malfoy showed a sarcastic smile. He opened his dragon mouth and used the unique breath of a dragon to make a long, complex chant. A human's voice would never be able to make a sound that included infrasonic and ultrasonic waves. The rays of the sun that had just shone down from the east dimmed in an instant. The moon in the west shone brightly, sprinkling blood red moonlight. The moonlight and the first rays of dawn intertwined, weaving a world that did not belong to day or night. The black dragon bathed in the moonlight. It used magic and shadows to create a strange power. Harry only felt a strong rush in his heart, and his body's instinctive reaction made him roll to avoid the deadly knife behind him. It was his own shadow waving at him, as if the shadow had no concept of volume. In the Forbidden Forest, the dense shadows of the branches on the ground began to dance, just like when the branches fluttered in the wind. Countless shadows, long and short, like bayonets, rotated like gears. The shadows on the ground suddenly stretched out like javelins, stabbing towards Harry. The shadows had no mass, no substance, but they were like the sharpest knives and spears with a deadly edge. Harry raised his wand and shouted, "Photo!" The tip of the wand emitted a blinding light, stabbing towards Malfoy like an arrow. There was no place for shadows to hide around him, and the light pierced the black dragon's scales, only leaving an inconspicuous white spot. It could not hurt Malfoy at all. The black dragon only smiled coldly. It flapped its wings, and a strong wind blew towards Harry and Hermione like an arrow, preventing them from advancing. With the help of the blood moon, the black dragon's huge body flew lightly into the sky. Harry was surprised to find that the trees in the forbidden forest above him seemed to have come to life, waving their branches to stop them from flying. The black dragon, who had already arrived above Harry, roared angrily and spat out a black poisonous fog. The cone-shaped poisonous fog covered Harry's position in the blink of an eye. Wherever the poisonous fog went, the crisp grass and trees withered in the blink of an eye. The poisonous fog, which was cursed and highly toxic, turned everything into shadows within the fog. The trees and the beasts in the forbidden forest all seemed to melt, their rich colors fading away, leaving behind thick black remains that looked like twisted shadows. When the poisonous fog covered a large part of the nearby forest, the black dragon spat out ink-like tiny particles of life, igniting the poisonous fog below. In the blink of an eye, the large part of the forest where Harry was burned by the black poisonous fire. It was not the high-temperature dragon fire, nor the acidic and negative dragon fire, but the fire of entropy that destroyed the order of heat, destroying the structure of materials and energy and melting them into a pool of chaos. In the poisonous fog, Harry tried to use the armor spell to protect himself, but in the blink of an eye, the spell was contaminated by the poison. At the most critical moment, the Golden Sun Sutra in Harry's arms released a golden light of the sun that enveloped the surrounding area, blocking the poisonous fog. Harry hurriedly rushed to where Hermione was, where the silver light emitted from the tip of the wand was in danger. The silver otter protecting Hermione had already faded into a faint light, and the poisonous black had silently infected the guardian. The otter raised its head and looked at Harry, revealing a reluctant look. At the moment when Harry hugged Hermione, the light of the otter melted in the black fog, and Hermione also blended in. Harry could feel that the guardian did not disappear, but the pure soul that represented the guardian had died in the poisonous fog. Malfoy had created the black dragon's poison with the help of the power of the dark world, and had even poisoned the guardian to death. Harry placed the Golden Sun Sutra between him and Hermione, but he did not notice that part of Hermione's shadow was exposed to the poisonous fog. Soon, Harry saw that Hermione's face was suffused with death and gray. Only then did he notice that Hermione's shadow that was exposed to the poisonous fog had also been poisoned to death. The adult Hermione was taller than Harry, and her shadow's head extended beyond the protection of the Golden Sun Sutra and died in the poisonous fog. Harry could feel Hermione's life slipping away in his arms, but he did not know how to stop it. Wounds could be healed, life could be replenished, and souls could be summoned. But without a shadow, how could he treat it? No. Harry hugged Hermione and whispered, "There must be a way. The shadow is not that important. The Golden Sun Sutra must have a way. The souls of the dead can be summoned, and the dead can be resurrected. But why would a person die without a shadow?" He desperately tried to recall the poem in the Golden Sun Sutra, and his body trembled. 11 Suddenly, he heard Fawkes's voice coming from above him. Harry looked up in surprise and saw the rapidly approaching phoenix in the distance. The phoenix lingered outside the poisonous fog, not daring to come close, but in the blink of an eye, a ray of sunlight shone from the observatory of Hogwarts. The phoenix, bathed in golden light, flew to Harry's head and landed on Hermione's chest. A crystal tear fell on her chest. The tear of a phoenix was the best healing potion material. It dispelled the black fog on Hermione's face, but it could not dispel the smell of death that gradually enveloped her. Fawkes whined and showed a human-like expression of sadness. It flew around Hermione and Harry's heads twice, and then left the place with a sad cry. Harry was almost speechless. He twitched in pain and clutched Hermione's hand tightly. At this time, the poisonous fire above their heads had fallen, and the surroundings had become a sea of fire. The light of the Golden Sun Sutra was getting dimmer and dimmer. Under the burning of the poisonous fire, nothing could withstand it for long. They could no longer see their surroundings. The black flames burned like purgatory, and the vicious flames licked everything in the area, killing any living existence in the area. The soil on the ground turned to ashes, and even the morning light and moonlight lost their vitality. In the vast sea of fire, only a little light of the Golden Sun Sutra was still holding on, but it was also on the verge of collapse. Harry heard footsteps coming from behind him. A man covered in a black robe separated the flames and came to Harry. He reached out and placed something in front of Harry. He took out a time converter and placed it in front of Hermione's chest. Harry could feel the man looking at him, but he could not tell what he was feeling. Sorrow, nostalgia, indifference, fear. Harry looked at the thing left behind by the mysterious man. It was the key to the Golden Sun Sutra and the Black Sutra of the Dead. It was a polygonal switch box. Harry happened to know how to use it. He twisted it slightly, and 7 leaf-like corners popped out of the box. He pressed the 7-pointed star-shaped key on the Golden Sun Sutra. The teeth marks on the key matched perfectly, and with a click, the Golden Sun Sutra suddenly opened by itself. Under the morning light, the pages were flowing with a brilliant golden light. Chapter 8:14. Harry watched as the Golden Solar Sutra glowed brightly. He parted the sea of fire and carried Hermione to the Black Dragon. "Harry, I've underestimated you," Malfoy said in disbelief. "I didn't expect you to awaken the power of the Solar Sutra, but it's useless. Both books will eventually fall into my hands." Harry raised his wand. "Malfoy, fall unconscious." The light from the Solar Sutra wrapped around his wand, and the power of the curse turned into a ray of sunlight that shot towards Malfoy's heart. The sun that had stopped rising under the power of the Black Sutra of the Dead suddenly shone brightly, tearing through the dark sky created by the Black Sutra of the Dead. This impossible. Malfoy roared in disbelief. He tried to control the power of the Black Sutra of the Dead in vain, trying to stop the power that completely suppressed his black magic, but it was all in vain. Just as Malfoy's heart was hit by the curse, and his mind was dizzy and on the verge of collapsing, Harry's heart suddenly tightened. The black-robed man who had given him the key to the Solar Sutra appeared behind Malfoy again. Avada death! The black-robed man's curse struck Malfoy. No! Harry shouted. Malfoy's soul floated up. He stared blankly at his own corpse, then at the black-robed man in confusion. Suddenly, he seemed to have understood something. He shouted something at Harry, but the soul had no voice. The most important thing was that his soul returned to its home and disappeared into thin air. When Harry returned to school, the observatory was empty. When he returned to the headmaster's office, Harry found Dumbledore there. He hugged Hermione and wanted to tell the old man everything, but Dumbledore stopped him. Harry, you don't have to tell me. I know everything, he said in a hoarse voice. He looked at Hermione's unconscious corpse and put her down, letting her lean against the chair in the headmaster's office. He whispered to Harry, who was about to say something, I know Malfoy is dead, and Granger has returned from the future. And I know that Granger has returned from the future. But Harry, promise me, if one day you must kill me, do not hesitate. Harry could not understand. Why? That is a very difficult and heavy burden. I shouldn't let you bear it. Dumbledore shed tears as he grabbed Harry's hand and said firmly, But promise me, when the time comes, don't hesitate, you must kill me. Harry was going crazy. Why? Hermione said that I will kill you, Ron, and Snape in the future. It's not hard for me to understand. But why are you forcing me like this, Professor? When Hermione told me, I thought I'd never do that. I couldn't be that kind of person. It's precisely because it's impossible that you have to do this. Dumbledore gripped Harry's hand, trembling slightly, and repeated, Promise me! Promise me! Harry was about to go crazy, but then he saw Ron. It was Ron who had grown up. His red hair was still messy. He pushed the door open and came in, his face covered in tears. Harry! Ron turned around and hugged him, but Harry was at a loss. Ron, who was already an adult, was hugging the skinny Harry. The scene was somewhat comical. After Ron calmed down, he said to Harry, Promise Professor Dumbledore, and when necessary, you know that time, when you attack me, don't show any mercy. That's impossible. Harry pushed Ron away and replied emotionally, I can't do such a thing. But you have to, Ron replied. If you don't do this, we will disappear because this world is a one-way universe. At that time, you will forget me now, forget Hermione. So, for our own good, you have to kill us. Harry woke up with a start and said in horror, So, the shadow that killed Malfoy, it's not him. Dumbledore's eyes showed deep guilt. He sighed. Don't ask, Harry. You will understand later. Dumbledore looked at the watch in his arms and whispered, I don't have much time. What about you? Ron replied, I've set aside some time. It's still a long time before it's my turn. He hammered Harry's chest and laughed. I want to have a good talk with Harry. You're too young now. Snape doesn't want to come, but I think when you kill him, you won't show any mercy. Don't say such a terrible thing. Harry said anxiously, What happened? I can't tell you. Ron hesitated. At this time, Dumbledore suddenly said to Ron, You can't take up too much of his time. Go back and wait. I think he has something to say to you two. Ron showed a complicated look. I've misunderstood him for a long time. Ron turned his head and said to Harry, If in the future I misunderstood you and scolded you, I want to say sorry now. I've already said it in advance, so you can't blame me. After saying that, Ron left without looking back. Dumbledore pointed at the time converter on Hermione's chest. Hermione's body disappeared in front of Harry's eyes. Dumbledore hurriedly said, Harry, remember, we're all behind you. All sacrifices are valuable. After saying that, he pulled Ron away without looking back, ignoring Harry's shouts and pursuit. Chunong and Dumbledore watched all this secretly. Dumbledore was a little agitated. He asked, in all of this, the one who suffered the most, experienced the most, and didn't understand the most is Harry. He's also the one who sacrificed the most. Does it have to be like this? You don't have a choice. In this world, Harry Potter is special. Only his time and fate can break that existence's control over your world. So, everyone must die in his hands. Your destiny, using the words of Eastern magic to explain it, it is fate. Give it to him, and he will represent this world to create the Morbius time cycle. Due to special reasons, this world is a unidirectional universe. There are no parallel worlds. The Well of Eternity is the mechanical hub of this world's time cycle in the future. It is also the only key to fixing time in this universe's time, fate, cause, and effect. In the future I created with Morgoth's extraordinary power, you, Hermione, and Ron will return to the present. As the first cause, I will make Harry the next Dark Devil King. I will create the unidirectional universe's grandmother paradox. I will make the universe under the control of that existence called the Lord God collapse into a ring-shaped universe so that we can get rid of its control. Then, in the next cycle, I will break the ring-shaped fate, expand the unidirectional universe into a multiverse, and open up the ring-shaped world line into a spiral world line. In the anchor coordinates of the Lord God, Harry is the most important one, followed by Ron and Hermione, followed by you, Voldemort, Snape, and the other professors and wizards. In order for this world to break free from the Lord God's anchor, these coordinates must participate in the time cycle. But to prevent the expansion of variables, the anchor coordinates must be restrained. In other words, when the Lord God interferes with this world, only one coordinate, Harry, can exist. All of you must die. In the future I created. Chun-Ang's gaze turned to the mysterious, black-robed man. He took off his hood. If Harry was here, he would be shocked. The lightning scar on his forehead, and the eyes and brows that were extremely similar to his. It was clearly him after he grew up. The future Harry killed Ron and traced Hermione's time converter to the present. He handed the key to the current Harry and then killed Malfoy. He is the fourth Dark Lord. In the future, he will walk as the fourth Dark Lord. When Harry does not have an alibi, he will act as the Dark Lord. He will remove the anchor points one by one. Then, when the current Harry is in the 7th grade, he will find an opportunity to kill you in front of everyone. Dumbledore nodded. Then Harry will go back to find the real murderer. In the process, the future Harry will use the name of the current Harry to kill his friends and family. Finally, when Harry finds him, the two will have a predestined showdown, and the current Harry will kill him, completing the cycle. At that time, the future Harry will be responsible for telling him everything, and I will come to the future in advance to fill in the gaps. Chunong smiled. Then let's go. The two tore open the space and came to the Hall of Hogwarts. There, Harry held his wand and looked at himself on the ground in shock. Harry was so shocked that when he looked back and saw Dumbledore, he was not more surprised. Professor? Harry's mind was a little fuzzy. He opened his mouth to ask something, but he quickly calmed down because he saw that Dumbledore seemed younger, especially the phoenix feather on Dumbledore's chest. He was in a trance for a moment and hesitated. The past professor? The professor on the day Malfoy died? He turned to look at Chunong and whispered, "Morgoth!" "Yes," Chunong said calmly. "We are here to explain everything." Dumbledore told Harry the truth of the world. He whispered, "This world is a cage, an unspeakable existence, flipping back and forth. For freedom and dignity, for the sake of saving this world, we must all pay the price." Dumbledore showed Harry the memories of the reincarnators in this world. He said sadly to Harry, "So, we put everything on your shoulders. In order to break the control of that existence, We must destroy the anchor point and use a new power to take this world away from him. So, with the help of Morgoth, we used you to destroy the anchor point." Harry asked, "What is the anchor point?" Dumbledore said in silence, "It is us. So, you must kill everyone, your friends, your family, everything we care about, until all the anchor points are concentrated on you. Then, you will complete the cycle of time. When you have all the anchor points, we will use the power of the Well of Eternity to send you back to the day you killed Malfoy. You need to give the key to your past self." As he spoke, Chin-Ong threw the key to Harry. "Then kill Malfoy. As the fourth Black Devil, kill those who must be killed by you, including Ron and me, Snape and your mother. By doing so, there will be a paradox in this world. When everything ends and the God Lord wants to restart, he will realize that he can't do it. Because if he doesn't allow you to return to the past, then you will die under Malfoy's hands that day. No one will impersonate you to kill Dumbledore, and you won't become the Black Devil. At that time, the power of the cycle of time will force him to put the anchor point, which is you, put back to the past, and by doing so, this world will be locked in an infinite cycle of time. There will be no future. Whenever the Lord Creator wants to end this world, it will automatically restart." Harry was completely dumbfounded. He looked at his future self and smiled. His soul gradually dissipated. He could not help but kneel on the ground and cry bitterly. Dumbledore said with the same sorrow, "But this is the last time. Harry, this is the last time. Soon we will be able to break the cycle and let this world, let the future become free. We will be the stones stuck in the gears of the Lord God's operation. With us as the price, everything will not be under the control of the Lord Creator. The Well of Eternity will fix the time of this world to the 7 years of your schooling. Time will continue to cycle, but the wizards and muggles of this world will be free. They will find that only the material world is renewed once every 7 years. Their souls and wills will not be manipulated. And, Harry, the souls of all the people you killed will be preserved in the Golden Sun Sutra. When that time comes, you can resurrect them and let them be completely free in the new world." Harry wanted to say something, but after a moment of hesitation, he shook his head and said, "I understand. When they are resurrected, let them forget this memory." Dumbledore nodded silently. Chin-Ong and him returned to the normal timeline. They were walking in the hallway of the headmaster's office when Harry rushed out and saw Dumbledore. He looked like he had seen a ghost. He stammered, "Professor, didn't you come from there?" His eyes stopped on the phoenix feather on Dumbledore's chest, and for some reason he firmly remembered it. In the timeline, Chen-Ong gazed at the unidirectional universe that had already been connected into a ring, watching it slowly separate from the Lord God's complicated system. Suddenly he laughed and said, "Another laboratory has been built. If I keep poaching the Lord God like this, I'm afraid he'll turn against me. It's time to return." Chapter 8:15. Wang Chen felt like he had passed through a long period of darkness. His spirit was blurry, as if he had lived longer than his life. All he could remember was a click and the soft sound of a mechanical lock opening. That muddle-headedness gradually left him. He could vaguely see a white light before his eyes, and a vague voice reached his ears. "Am I dead? I don't think so." In his memory, fireballs fell from the sky and burned everywhere as if doomsday had come. He stood on the street in despair, waiting for death to come. But what happened next? I don't remember. He seemed to be lying in a narrow but comfortable iron box. Is it a coffin? He should thank the country for not cremating him. Wang Chun had woken up, but he did not want to open his eyes. Now, someone was talking in his ear. A young boy whose voice had not changed yet said fearfully, "Master, the great heavenly Lord Wei Shun's body coffin is glowing. It's the great heavenly Lord of Salvation's Dharma body." An old voice was heard, followed by the sound of him slapping the boy's scalp. "You rascal!" Then the old voice scolded. Everyone told me that this iron coffin is the most precious treasure of our Mao Mountain lineage. It is an ancestral magical item. Our Mao Mountain's patriarch had obtained this coffin of the Celestial Lord of Salvation, the life-sustaining Celestial Lord of Salvation, and that was how he came to understand the art of refining and controlling corpses. How dare you touch the ancestral magical item? I will beat you to death, you evil disciple. Didn't I just want to comprehend the patriarch's spell from this iron coffin? The boy said, feeling wronged. Master, you said that we're the direct descendants of Lower Mao Shan. But the Taoist priest from Tai Ching Monastery on Mount Phoenix said that we're imposters of their Mao Shan spell scrolls. He even said that you don't even have an identity certificate and that you're a fake Taoist priest. He said that we're just picking up the bones of the dead and that we're not from Mao Shan at all. Nonsense. The old man was so angry that his eyes widened, and he said breathlessly, they lost the spell passed down by Patriarch Duke Jiao, and let those people from Nanjing's Skyward Palace take it away, and now they blame us for being the direct descendants and chased us out of Shangqing Palace. Originally, Mao Shan's forte was the Yin God corpse dispelling spell. But now they're saying that those of us who still adhere to our patriarch's teachings are crooked. How dare you? Even if I, Shurgong, die, I want to see the day when we descend from Mount Mao, retrieve our ancestral master's magic, and drive the elite metal zombie into Shangqing Palace. When the young man heard this, he said angrily, if ancestral master Duke Jiu can comprehend spells from great monarch Yan's corporeal body coffin, why can't we? He said excitedly, when we comprehend the 13 techniques of the corpse path from the treasures left behind by our founding master, we will be able to recreate the grand occasion when we descended from Mount Mao and ruled the 3 provinces in the southeast. If we still care about our ancestors' rules, when the people from the Shangqing Palace come knocking on our door, are we going to let them humiliate us? The Shangqing Palace paid a visit? The old man, Shur Gong, was keenly aware of something and anxiously asked, you evil disciple, what trouble did you cause this time? Why would the Shangqing Palace come knocking on our door for no reason at all? Did you tell them about the ancestral treasures? The young man suddenly became terrified. He stammered that Shangqing Palace side courtyard's Taoist priest laughed at us. In a fit of anger, in a fit of rage, Shur Gong slapped his little disciple and roared, You're a fool. We have no power and influence, and the Shangqing Palace knows about it. Do we still have the lives of master and disciple? You despise us for picking up the bones of the dead. Do you think master will forget about you when he has a bite to eat? With this little bit of skill left behind by our founding master, although we, master and disciple, have been despised by others, we don't have to worry about food and clothing. But you, rebellious disciple, have caused a great disaster. Do you want to take my old life? As he said this, Shur Gong jogged all the way and said to his disciple, if not for you being my only unfilial disciple, and you being my poor sister's only son, Sai, quickly pack your things. Before the people from the Shangqing Palace come, let's run first. The little disciple was at a loss. Uncle, no, master. What about the ancestral treasures? Back then, Grandmaster Jiu saw a comet falling to the ground at night. He entered the mountain for 3 days before he found this coffin. From the corpse of the immortal inside, he comprehended our corpse path's magic. This coffin is entirely made of grand white adamantine and weighs more than 18,000 jin. Grandmaster Jiu spent a lot of effort to dig it out from the mountain. Now that he's in a hurry, how can he move it? Just leave it here. Later, find a hidden place and bury it here. I'll come back to look for it in the future. Anyway, I can't let it fall into the hands of those traitors. Inside the coffin, Wang Qin slowly opened his eyes and let out a deep breath. Is it a TV series outside? And it's a stereo surround sound system. How generous. He had heard that some funeral businesses had developed refrigerated coffins and internet-connected coffins to meet the needs of various customers after death. There was a joke that went like this: "Even if I die, I'll use my withered throat to shout. Cell phone, charge, connect, Wi-Fi." Who would have thought that there would really be such a service inside a coffin? Wang Chen opened his eyes and saw a Taoist child with a Taoist bun on the glass plate less than 30 centimeters from his chest. The child widened his eyes and looked at him in horror. Before he could praise the high-end atmosphere of the coffin and its built-in 3D screen, he saw the Taoist child scream, "Master, the grand heavenly venerate's corpse has come back to life." Wang Chen found it funny when he saw the little Taoist child's face covered in tears and snot. He reached out and pushed the screen in front of him. Suddenly, a gap the size of 3 fingers slid open. The little Taoist child quickly held the coffin against it and shouted, "The corpse has come back to life. Oh my God, the great heavenly venerable Wei Xing's coffin can't hold on any longer. Brat, why are you so flustered?" Shi Gong rushed in from the front hall angrily. Just as he was about to scold his little disciple, he saw the heavenly venerable's Dharma body inside the ancestral treasure push open the crystal lid on the surface of the iron coffin and sit up. Shi Gong's eyes rolled back and he was about to pass out. The little disciple quickly ran over and pinched his master's philtrum. He cried, "Master, you can't die. What am I going to do if you die? In our Mao Mountain, even ancestral Master Jiu, we only managed to cultivate a flying Yiksha. Now, even the God we worship has come back to life. What can I do, disciple? Master." Wang Chen didn't know if he should disturb the master and disciple when he saw the little Taoist child crying his heart out. He looked back and realized why the master and disciple called him the Chinese great heavenly venerable of salvation. On the lid of the iron coffin were the words, "Chinese Multiverse Dimensional Republic, Salvation Army Rescue Warehouse." Although it was written in simplified Chinese, the 2 people in front of him were dressed in ancient Chinese attire and spoke in a familiar dialect. They should be able to understand the words. Ahem. Wang Chen coughed twice and said, "Sorry to disturb you. May I know what dynasty it is now?" "Don't eat me." The little disciple wailed and collapsed on Shi Gong's body. Shi Gong's philtrum was pinched so hard by the ground that he woke up from the pain. When he heard the great heavenly venerable who had come back to life speak the human language, and it was even in the capital's accent, he wasn't that afraid anymore. If he could speak the human language, he wouldn't be a zombie. If he wasn't a zombie, the master and disciple could still live. He cupped his hands to Wang Chen tremblingly and said, "Great heavenly venerable, this is the Great Ming Dynasty." Wang Chen's eyes lit up when he heard the words, "Great Ming Dynasty." Did I time travel? But looking at the iron coffin under him, the shape of the warehouse didn't seem too sci-fi. But from what the master and disciple said, it seemed that he had been sleeping in the warehouse for a long time. This kind of technology tree, the hibernation chamber, was not something that he who was born in the first half of the 21st century and encountered a major disaster could use. And what the hell was this Chinese multiverse dimensional republic? What was the Salvation Army? Another name for the People's Liberation Army? I time travel in a warehouse. It's a bit unconventional. And what kind of Taoist magic could that ancestral Master Jiu learn from the warehouse? Zhu Yuanzhang's Great Ming Dynasty. In case there was another Great Ming Dynasty in the other world, Wang Chen specially asked, "What era is it now?" Chapter 816. In the 41st year of the Wanli calendar, many fragments of information flashed through Wang Chen's mind. Thanks to his master's degree in literature from a key university, he could still vaguely remember many things. The 3 major expeditions of the Wanli calendar, the Old Wild Boar Pinurhachi, the 7 Great Enmities Rebellion, the Battle of Sahu, Zhang Jujing, the eunuchs, Feng Bao, Imperial Concubine Jiang, the East Faction Guards, the West Faction Guards, Yu Huatian and Cao Suiyin. Oh, no, the last 2 were virtual characters. Wang Chen thought. His mind was in a mess. Feng Bao. Wang Zhiwang and Qin Ju and Wei Zhongxian, who had not yet developed but was already ambitious and lurking in the dark. Why were they all eunuchs? Wang Qin suddenly came to his senses. He counted tens of thousands of civil officials he remembered. Zhang Jujing, Yu Qian. No wonder it was said that in the Ming dynasty the dead eunuchs and the civil officials divided the world equally. Hearing this celestial master sitting on the iron coffin in a daze for a long time, Shi Gong couldn't help but sneak a glance and found Wang Qin in a trance. He thought anxiously, could it be that this celestial master is a corpse with a spirit, but his soul is incomplete? Shi Gong, who was old and shrewd, had found that the immortal resurrected from the ancestral treasure didn't seem that strange. He looked no different from an ordinary person. Wang Chen's sharp intuition reminded him of Shi Gong's doubtful look, and then he came to his senses. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that he had stayed in the barnyard for decades. Instead of muscle atrophy and exhaustion, he felt healthier. His brain was more flexible, and his body was in better condition than ever, and even his spirit was sharper. This made him more certain that the barnyard he slept in was indeed a black technology that surpassed the world he had traveled through. There was definitely something wrong with the Republic of Dimensions in the Chinese multiverse. Wang Chen had a hunch that it might be able to reveal the secret of his time travel to the Ming dynasty. Oh, the little Taoist boy, who had fainted in fear, slowly woke up. He said quietly, "Master, I seem to have dreamed that the corpse in our ancestral treasure came back to life." Seeing Wang Qin staring at him, the little Taoist boy was so scared that his voice cracked. Wang Qin was still having a headache. The master and disciple seemed to think he was an immortal. Should he bite the bullet and keep pretending? Or find another excuse to explain the current situation? Logically speaking, for the sake of safety, Wang Chen had better maintain the identity of an immortal. However, the ancients were not fools. The old Taoist had recovered from the shock just now, and his eyes were already filled with suspicion. Wang Chen did not think that he had the ability to pretend to be an immortal in the ancients' eyes. I've never heard of a swindler who can lie to the world without knowing anything about the person they're trying to deceive. As a matter of fact, the skill of mystifying others had to be built on the advantage of information in order to be able to fool others in one fell swoop. Given the current situation where Wang Chen was clueless, he was not confident that he could handle the subsequent tests. But we can't just sit here and do nothing. Wang Chen lowered his head and sighed inwardly. When he saw the cabin he was sitting on, he suddenly realized, that's right. If this was really a high-tech warehouse, there was no way it wouldn't be equipped with self-defense weapons. Even World War II pilots were equipped with a pistol for self-defense. On the lifeboats of ocean-going ships, signal guns were standard equipment. How could a cabin capable of interstellar travel, which is highly likely to be a lost spaceship, not have any weapons? Wang Chen decisively lay back down and closed the glass cover of the cabin. Hearing the click of a mechanical lock, Wang Chen was finally relieved. At least there was a cabin to protect him. If there was any danger outside, he could just continue to sleep. After sleeping for 8 to 10 years, all dangers would disappear. Looking at the high-end atmosphere of this cabin, it was basically impossible for the indigenous people outside to open it without hundreds of years of research. Seeing him lying back in the coffin, the two Taoists stared at each other. The little Taoist was no longer afraid. He plucked up his courage and asked, "Master, why did the great heavenly venerable lie back down?" Shi Gong looked at this unlucky kid and wished he could slap him to death. He stepped forward and said respectfully, "Farewell, immortal venerable." Before he could finish his words, the glazed lid of the magic treasure, the old Taoist had always thought so, immediately opened again. The celestial master, who had just laid back on the bed, sat up with a piece of black iron in his hand. Based on the old Taoist's knowledge and experience, it was somewhat similar to the short guns of the great Ming dynasty's firearms camp, but it was more angular and somewhat inexplicably nimble. In the lower left corner of the cabin, Wang Qin, who had found 3 magazines of 19 bullets and a self-defense pistol, finally had the confidence to ensure his safety. With a gun in hand, I feel at ease. Wang Qin sighed with emotion. He didn't want to pretend to be mysterious anymore. Instead, he imitated Gong Gong Gong's style of cupping his hands and said, "Taoist, I'm not a god. I'm just a foreigner who's in trouble. To take refuge, I slept in this coffin. Master Taoist, please don't be so polite." Shi Gong was intimidated. After thinking for a while, he finally believed the ancestor. The ancestor said that this coffin was brought here by a comet falling to the earth. How could it be false? Taking refuge from the sky, weren't they immortals? As for why immortals didn't admit that they were immortals, the sky could see it. Would immortals think that they were immortals? Only mortals like us who are born, old, sick, and dead would think that immortals were immortals. As for the immortals themselves, they had seen too many of them and didn't think it was strange to live forever. Wang Qin couldn't see through Shi Gong's complicated thoughts. All he saw was that Shi Gong was still bowing to the coffin, and even the doubts in his eyes had disappeared. He simply crawled out of the coffin. Wang Qin was also quite afraid that after the cover of the cabin was closed, even he himself wouldn't be able to open it. But he found that this cabin seemed to be operated by his brain waves or something, and only recognized him. Just now, when he found the pistol, he was lying in the cabin, thinking about where the self-defense weapon was. As a result, the secret compartment on the right opened by itself. Later, he found that opening and closing the cover of the cabin was also controlled by his mind. Maybe there was fingerprint and iris verification? Anyway, as soon as he pulled it, it opened. After he went out, he also tried it and found that he could still open it, but most others probably couldn't. He didn't believe that the natives hadn't tried to open the cabin after it had been in their hands for so long. Just now in the cabin, Wang Qin also found a display screen. It was the glass cover through which he could see his upper body. When he lay back down, he found that the glass cover could project some data related to the cabin according to his needs. For example, he saw just now that 43% of the nutrient solution in the cabin had been used up, and there was also a nutrient solution nanorobot that could automatically collect and synthesize materials. Wang Qin checked the replenishment progress and found that it would take about 2% a day to recover. Chapter 817. After climbing out of the coffin, Wang Qin realized that the place he was in was not a proper Taoist temple. In fact, it was a mortuary, a place where corpses were kept. Usually, the corpses of foreigners and unidentified people would be left in the mortuary and wait for someone to bring them to the grave. Out of the Chinese's belief that the dead should be respected, such mortuary was usually built with donations from rich families in the countryside. In years without natural disasters, the countryside in China still had a trace of warmth and tenderness. But these 2 Taoists, one old and one young, were actually wild Taoists. Taoists in the great Ming dynasty enjoyed a high status, but they had to have official documents, diplomas, so they would not end up in this unlucky mortuary. The old Taoist's living standard was not bad, which could be seen from the fact that the tea he served to Wang Qin was new. But Wang Qin did not have the habit of casually drinking things handed to him in a strange environment. So he put the tea aside with a smile and kept talking to the old Taoist, trying to get some useful information out of him. He did not touch the tea at all. After chatting for a while, Wang Qin noticed that the old Taoist was a little restless. He thought for a while and then remembered the voices in the granary that he thought were sleep talk. Suddenly he understood. The old and the young were preparing to run for their lives. The old Taoist seemed to have seen through Wang Qin's intention. So he stopped hiding and said with a wry smile, "Young master, please don't laugh at us. The 2 of us, alone and widowed, have offended the Shangqing Palace on the nearby Phoenix Mountain. How dare we stay here any longer? I've already prepared to escape with my disciple. After entertaining young master, I'll set off right away. I can't delay any longer." Wang Qin smiled and asked casually, "You and your disciple are alone. so you're not afraid of the Shangqing Palace. But there's one thing I don't understand, and I hope you can explain it to me." The old Taoist raised his hand and said, "Young master, please ask." Wang Qin went straight to the point. "Taoist priest, you can leave, but the coffin I'm sleeping in can't. Even if you want to bury me, you have to ask for my permission. But if I take away the coffin, I'm sure you won't be willing to do so. The coffin is here. Where can Taoist priest escape to?" Old Taoist Shigong forced a smile and apologized. "Please forgive me, young master. This mysterious coffin naturally belongs to young master. When Patriarch Zhou of Mount Mao found the coffin, young master was lying inside. To the Shangqing Palace, I can say that this treasure belongs to me. But to the young master, I would never dare to say that." But Shigong was unwilling to give up. "This is still the Patriarch's relic. It is where the lapel of my Lower Mao Mountain lies, and the legacy of my Lower Mao Mountain lineage is tied to this item. Tao techniques and magic power all originated from this treasure. I'm not willing to give up my ancestors' relic just like that." Seeing the sincerity in Shigong's words, Wang Qin suddenly felt a little more confident. He had just figured out that the relationship between him and this coffin must never be known by others. The master and disciple who watched him climb out of the coffin were the two people who knew most of his secrets. He could never let them divulge this secret. Fortunately for the master and disciple, this coffin was also an extremely important secret. If he killed the master and disciple, Wang Qin would not have the heart to do it. Moreover, from the perspective of power and tactics, he would fall into the lower class. The best way was, of course, to persuade the master and disciple. Wang Qin immediately said, "That's the decision you can't make, Taoist priest. But I have an immature idea. This coffin naturally belongs to me. But since you came to Mount Mao, you are indeed destined to have it. How about this? What you paid attention to when you came to Mount Mao was probably the Tao technique you comprehended from this coffin. No one knows more about the secret of this coffin than I do. Why don't you tell me the origin of your family's Tao technique and the key points? I'll rederive the inherited Tao technique of your family, and then you'll get the lost Tao technique, and you won't need this inheritance anymore. Don't tell me you still want to compete with me, your master." Wang Qin asked in a seemingly joking manner. I dare not. Shigong bowed and said, "Young master, you've done us a great favor by allowing us to comprehend the treasured coffin. How dare I not back down and covet young master's treasure?" But Shigong was a cunning old fox after all. He took the opportunity to make a request. "I came to Mount Mao for the inheritance of young master's treasure. Young master has been half a teacher to us. I think, since young master has no prejudice against sex, if you don't mind me coming to Mount Mao, why don't you join us? We'll worship young master as our ancestral master and be on the same level as ancestral Master Zhou. Isn't that great?" Well, Wang Qin didn't expect someone to be so shameless as to take advantage of the situation and attach himself to the ancestral master. But on second thought, this was really the best of both worlds. Wang Qin didn't care about a title anyway. Moreover, if he joined Mount Mao, his seniority would be much higher than that old Taoist, so it was only natural that he could see the Tao techniques of Mount Mao. Wang Qin was really curious about Tao techniques, as if he had a kitten in his stomach. If he became a senior ancestral master, it would be completely in line with his wishes. In this way, he could legitimately subdue these two Taoists who knew his biggest secret, and he could also have a title to explore the world of Tao techniques. Seeing that Wang Qin had no objection, Shigong bowed again and said, "If young master is willing to join Mount Mao, the position of sect master will naturally be yours. Although Mount Mao is down and out, we still have many Dharma branches that are spread outside, and we have relations with several unorthodox sects and dozens of heterodox sects in several provinces in the southeast. If young master can revive the 13 corpse sects, 6 ghost sects, and 29 miscellaneous sects of Taoism of Mount Mao, and make the Dharma branches that are scattered outside submit to us, young master can just raise his arm and call for followers to gather. Then Lower Mao will be re-established as the leader of the 3 southeastern provinces and the first heterodox sect in the great Ming dynasty. At that time, the young ancestral master's kindness to me was greater than the sky and the earth. Shigong will die for him. Hearing this, Wang Chun was moved. Although the heterodox sects didn't sound so good, Mount Mao was once the first heterodox sect in the great Ming dynasty, so its ancestors must have been rich, which would be of great help to him. In fact, Shigong really wanted to move Wang Chun with this. So what if they were immortals? Immortals also needed disciples and apprentices to serve them. Didn't immortals need to be worshipped? Wang Chun sat upright and said, "This is the best of both worlds. If you sincerely regard me as your ancestral master, I will naturally treat you sincerely. But if you just want to find a cover and use me as a puppet, you should give up on this idea as soon as possible. Of course, I sincerely invite you." Shigong pushed Wang Chun's seat and immediately knelt down and kowtowed, saying, "Grand disciple, please Dharma idol of ancestral master to welcome young ancestral master into our Maoshan Dharma branch. Young ancestral master, please regard my ancestral master Jiu as your senior brother." Wang Chun knew that between him and Duke Jiu, who was the senior brother, this was an official dispute of Mount Mao. Although he didn't care, he still had to fight for it. Immediately he said with a straight face, "Duke Jiu obtained my treasure, comprehended the Tao, and established the Maoshan branch. Technically speaking, he and I are half a master. Now that I'm making friends with him, how can I allow him to take a higher position than me?" Shigong kowtowed and said, "Young ancestral master has taught me the Tao, but in the Maoshan branch, the laws and rules are all set by ancestral master Jiu. Jiu is the most virtuous person in the branch. Previously, young ancestral master took ancestral master Jiu as his disciple, just like ancestral master Lu and immortal Zhongli Quan. Now that we invite young ancestral master to join Mount Mao, how can we dare to regard him as ancestral granduncle in front of ancestral master Jiu? Young ancestral master, please regard ancestral master Jiu as your senior brother." Wang Chun didn't care about these things, but he knew that it was extremely difficult for people to place him in front of the real ancestral master. Forcing it would inevitably cause people to go against each other. Why did they have to do this? Therefore, he casually said a few words and agreed to it. After receiving his permission, Shigong immediately invited ancestral master Jiu's Dharma image and opened the sect hall. After reporting to the ancestral master, he took a red pen and added Wang Chun's Dharma name after ancestral master Jiu's name in the Maoshan branch book, calling him Immortal Weisheng. Disciple Chonggong pays respect to young ancestral master. Shigong and his disciple respectfully kowtowed to Wang Chun. From then on, Wang Weisheng, a citizen of China in the 21st century, a grassroots civil servant with a master's degree who could feed his family, became the young ancestral master of Mount Mao, the first heterodox sect of the great Ming dynasty, and took charge of the Maoshan branch. Chapter 8:18. Master, this is the only spell left in our Maoshan branch. Shigong held a yellowed old book and respectfully placed it on the table in front of Wang Chun. Wang Chun picked it up and flipped through a few pages. It was a handwritten notebook. The traditional Chinese characters written with a brush were piled up like flies, mixed with simplified cursive script and ciphers. There were no punctuation marks. Even though Wang Chun was from the Chinese department, it was still very difficult for him to read it. It was filled with a large number of pronouns such as lead mercury, dragon and tiger, cinnabar, and a large number of Taoist nouns, which made his scalp tingle and his head hurt. Wang Chun hurriedly closed the secret book and cursed in his mind. Whoever tells me that secret books can be understood by time travelers in the future, I'll be angry with him. Without punctuation marks, modern people, as long as they don't study that subject, I'm afraid they can't even understand the Analects of Confucius. Not to mention this kind of relatively closed cultural circle, filled with a large number of pronouns and ciphers of Taoism. Except for those disciples and disciples of the same lineage, how can others understand it? He put down the secret book and smiled at Shi Gong. No need. I can't understand this secret book even if you give it to me. You can just show me. Shi Gong bowed and said, Yes, Your Majesty. Shi Gong respectfully led Wang Qin to the Ming Hall of the Memorial Hall, where several old and new coffins were placed. His young disciple followed behind them and busied himself with helping. Shi Gong came to an old coffin and explained to Wang Qin, Young patriarch in Maoshan branch, Taoist spells are all from human corpses. There are many unclean and dark places. Wang Qin nodded and said, I know. You can open the hall now. Shi Gong excused himself and pushed the lid of the coffin with his hands, revealing a lifelike corpse of a man with a livid face. The lid of the coffin was a little rotten. As soon as it was opened, the smell of rotten would rush straight into Wang Qin's nose. But after carefully distinguishing it, he found that there was a smell of Chinese medicine ointment mixed in it, which was not the stench of a corpse. Wang Qin carefully examined it for a long time. After confirming that there was indeed no rotten odor, he moved closer to take a look. Shi Gong explained, In the Mao Mountain lineage, there are 13 types of corpse spells, 6 types of ghost spells, and 29 types of miscellaneous arts. Most of them have been lost. What's left are these secret techniques that can't even be considered spells. The first is this method of preserving corpses. Grand Ancestor Duke Jiu obtained a secret ointment from the young ancestor's coffin. It was able to preserve the young ancestor's body for dozens of years, just like a living person, without aging or rotting. Grand Ancestor Duke Jiu deduced that the ointment applied by the young ancestor must be a secret medicine for immortality in the upper realm. Patriarch Jiu was a heaven-warping genius. He used his magic power to get out of young Patriarch's coffin. Speaking of this, Shi Gong cautiously looked up at Wang Qin. After confirming that Wang Qin didn't look worried, he continued, I stole a few elixirs of immortality and comprehended a lot of corpse elixirs from them. It can preserve the dead and nourish the corpses, so that the corpses won't rot in the hottest days of the year, and the blood of the corpses won't freeze in the coldest of nights. Their faces will be rosy, and their hair and skin will be intact. There's such a function. Wang Qin didn't know how to express what he was thinking. You guys can even develop this function of the nutrient solution. Is Grand Ancestor Duke Jiu's Chinese medicine skills maxed out? He can actually use Chinese medicine to imitate the function of the nutrient solution. This kind of black technology would be worth billions of US dollars in the 21st century. It's cutting-edge medical technology that can win the Nobel Prize in Physiology, yet your grand ancestor can replicate it using Chinese medicine. Should I say that Chinese medicine is really unscientific? This is the prerequisite skill to unlock the cultivation skill tree. Shi Gong was still sighing. I thought that even if Grand Ancestor Duke Jiu didn't recover 70%, he would at least have grasped 50% of the secrets of the celestial medicine in the iron coffin. When it comes to preserving corpses, it's just that the effect is slightly worse. Later on, through this medicine, he came up with many secret medicines that can change the quality of corpses. For example, the iron corpse medicine smeared on this iron corpse can seep into the muscles and bones of the corpse, making the corpse as tough as steel and invulnerable. Before the Maoshan Taoist art of corpse exorcism was lost, an iron corpse was like a heavy armor with infinite strength. One iron corpse could fight against 100 people. I didn't expect that preserving corpses is just the surface of the celestial medicine in the iron coffin. This celestial medicine can actually make people immortal. Shi Gong cupped his hands towards Wang Qin and said, I'm so ashamed. Young Grand Ancestor, compared to the elixir that young Grand Ancestor used, which can keep one's appearance unchanged for decades, the elixir of immortality. Shigong covered his face and said nothing. Wang Chun boldly squeezed the body of the iron corpse. Sure enough, wherever he touched, it felt like rubber, with a kind of gelatinous texture. Shigong was a little ashamed of the effect of his secret medicine, but he didn't know that Wang Qin was also very shocked. He thought to himself, although I can't dissect it, this feeling, it's like rubber. It's said that those who practice body-hardening Qigong can build a layer of skin under their skin after long-term training. Compared to this corpse-refining medicine, it's nothing. This medicine is almost as good as the rubber fruit. No wonder it's said that it's invulnerable. Based on the quality of cold weapons in ancient times, it might really be hard to cut through the skin of this corpse. And under the skin of this iron corpse, the layer of fat must have been refined into something by these Mao Shan Taoist priests. It's probably some non-Newtonian fluid. The stronger and faster the attack, the harder it is. Shigong told Wang Qin that the loss of the secret medicine of Mao Shan was also very serious. Among the 5 kinds of corpses, only the secret medicine of the iron corpse was left. And the most important secret method of controlling corpses was lost. Even if there were a few bronze-armored corpses left behind, they couldn't be used. This iron corpse was only refined by the old Taoist priest because he accidentally found a corpse with a particularly good aptitude. Now he could only look at it. How shameful! The 2 of us, master and disciple, can still make some money by relying on the prescription left by Patriarch Duke Jiu to prevent corpses from rotting. Oh, then how do you make money? Wang Qin suddenly became spirited at the mention of money. The 2 of us, master and disciple, make a living by using secret medicine to put the dead into the coffin. Patriarch Duke Jiu left a few kinds of secret medicine to cover the wounds. If there are corpses killed by swords and spears, if the family members want to bury the body in one piece, they have to invite us. After applying the ointment, the wounds of the corpses will be covered up, and the wounds will not be seen anymore. This was originally the prescription we used to refine corpses when we went down to Mount Mao. At that time, we drove the corpses to fight against the enemies. Most of the corpses were damaged, but some of the wounds were repaired with this secret medicine. There are also corpses that are preserved. In the surrounding villages, whenever they hold funerals, they have to invite us to apply the secret medicine to the corpses so that they won't rot for dozens of days. When it's time to stop the spirits, we put the corpses on display to make them look good. There are also some rich families that spend a lot of money and use the best secret medicine to make the corpses look good. In order to make the corpses look good, they have to make the corpses rosy and lifelike. Only then will they look filial. There are also those who drown, burn, or hang. No matter what kind of corpses they are, I can clean them up with the ability left behind by the patriarch. Since ancient times, weddings and funerals have always cost a lot of money. The people of China are diligent and thrifty. They are only willing to spend money on these 2 major events. Although your business doesn't sound good, I'm afraid it's not cheap to collect money. Wang Qin sighed. Although the things the master and disciple did were despicable, they were probably rich. The reason why they looked so poor was probably because they wanted to keep a low profile. After all, it was not the right way to make a fortune through funerals. If the master and disciple were to attract the jealousy of others, there would be endless troubles. They might even have to go to court. Being a little more restrained also showed the wisdom of Shigong. As Wang Qin thought about it, he suddenly patted his head and asked Shigong, "If this secret medicine of yours can be used on corpses, it can also be used on living people, right? The medicine to close the incision, it's the best medicine for wounds. If the secret medicine used to make iron corpses can be used to practice external martial arts, won't it be easy to master it? If the medicine can make the corpses rosy and young, won't it be a magic medicine to beautify a young lady?" As Wang Qin spoke, he was shocked. No wonder Lower Mao Mountain used to be the #1 heterodox sect in the great Ming dynasty. In his time, the things that leaked out from under the fingernails were treasures worth tens of billions of US dollars. Shirgong moved closer to Wang Qin and said in a low voice, "Young patriarch, the secret medicine used to close the wound is indeed a top-notch medicine for healing wounds. It's called golden jade powder, and its effect is even better when used on living people. The secret medicine of iron corpses is also a secret ointment for external martial arts called zombie fist. But without the zombie fist inner method of the Yen family in Chun province, the person who uses this medicine to practice martial arts will lose the sense of pain even if he can master the thwart kung fu that makes him invulnerable. After 3 to 5 years, his whole body will gradually become numb, like a living corpse, and even his breathing will be numb. Then he will turn himself into an iron corpse. As for the rosy powder that can make the corpses rosy and young, no one thought it could be used on living people. This is an unlucky thing used by the dead. Who would want to apply it on their wife's face? Besides, the reputation of Lower Mao Mountain is not good, and our disciples are... I'm 53 this year. I haven't found a wife yet. When I joined the sect, Lower Mao Mountain was still in its heyday. So, all of you are single dogs." Wang Chen widened his eyes and pointed at Shirgong. "You want me to be your young patriarch. Aren't you trying to harm me? I don't have any grudges against you. Forget it." Wang Chen waved his hand and sighed without looking at the confused Shirgong. "Let's get down to business. I've roughly guessed why you don't sell medicine. These secret medicines are too precious. You'll have countless troubles if you reveal a trace of them. It's not as simple and easy as eating the food of the dead, and you can make a lot of money. In this world, selling beauty and skincare products may not be as profitable as making money from the dead. If you can make a lot of money, those rich families can spend mountains of gold and silver without blinking for the sake of their filial reputation. Women's money is easier to make than men's, and children's money is easier than women's. But the money of the dead is the easiest to make." Chapter 819. After Wang Chen had seen the secret medicine left by the Maoshan sect. Although he knew that these inconspicuous things were the most important heritage of a sect, he still couldn't help feeling a little disappointed. What he really wanted to see were the Taoist magic arts and magic power mentioned by Senior Shirgong. For a young man who grew up in a country guided by materialism and liked traditional culture, these things were incomparably attractive. As he casually responded to Shirgong, he thought about how to stealthily lead the topic to this. "You just mentioned the Yen family of Chun province. The Yen family's martial art, the zombie fist, needs the help of Mao Mountain's secret medicine to master. This shows that the Yen family has a special relationship with Mao Mountain." Shirgong answered, "Indeed. The Yen family was originally an outer sect of Mao Mountain. When Patriarch Duke Jiao was still here, disciples of the Yen family would come to Mao Mountain every year to learn martial arts. Their fist technique could only be mastered with the secret medicine of Mao Mountain's gold and silver corpses. The patriarch even gave them the secret medicine to refine iron and bronze corpses so that they could master the fist technique in the Yen family. Later on, Mao Mountain met with a great calamity. All the elders and disciples were slaughtered, including gold, silver, copper, and iron. The flying yaksha's secret medicine for refining corpses was only left with the iron corpse medicine. Most of the techniques were lost as well. More than half of the Yen family's disciples who joined Mao Mountain died. Only then did they slowly lose contact with us. Let's not talk about the Yen family. Even the one family of Minnan, and not us from Mao Mountain? Among the 4 heretical clans, Tang, Lei, Wen, and Yen, 2 of them belonged to the forces of Lower Mao Mountain. When Lower Mao Mountain was at its peak, the shamans of Minnan, the Quan Nan Fist sect, and geomasters of Guangdong, the witchcraft practitioners of Guangxi, and even the navy and corpse drivers of Shaanxi, the people of all walks of life in Shaanxi, Minnan, Guangxi, Yunnan, and Guizhou dared not accept Duke Jiao's summons. They called themselves Mao Mountain Taoist priests, Samao True Lord, and Grandmaster Zhou's disciples. It's only now that I've left Mao Mountain. At that time, the heretical forces united in Mao Mountain's outer sect scattered. Young Patriarch, although the three of us are the only ones left of Mao Shan's direct lineage, Mao Shan's disciples are still spread across Yunnan, Guizhou, Guangxi, Shaanxi, and Minnan. All we have to do is wait for the ancestral master to restore the Mao Shan Taoism. With a wave of his arm, the disciples will immediately gather and rebuild the Mao Shan Taoism. It had never occurred to Wang Qin that this Mao Mountain Taoist priest, who only appeared in old Hong Kong movies and ghost stories, could be so powerful. If what Shigong said was true, this sect must have many secrets. Among them, the most mysterious one should be the founder of Mao Shan Taoism, Duke Jiu. All the Taoist magic of Mao Shan Taoism seemed to originate from the Zhensong that Wang Qin wrote in. Duke Jiu was a peerless genius who must have discovered many secrets from the Zhensong. Wang Qin had a vague feeling that there seemed to be an inextricable connection between him and the Mao Shan Taoism. He pondered for a moment and asked, since the Mao Mountain branch was once so glorious, how did it end up with only the two of you left in the main branch? Shigong couldn't help but burst into tears at the thought of that scene. He knelt down and said, Young Patriarch, there's a blood feud between us and the Mao Shan Taoism that caused us to end up like this. Patriarch Jiu was just a Taoist priest in the Shangqing Palace of Mao Shan. He obtained the coffin of the young patriarch and became a perfected being. He dominated the southeast and founded the sect. The Shangqing Palace looked down on the patriarch, but they couldn't find anyone who could be compared to him. At that time, the Taoist magic appeared, and the dragon and snake continent rose. It was an era of great competition. Many ancient magic treasures appeared one after another, most of which were obtained by the Chuanjin sect. In the Zhengyi sect, only Dragon and Tiger Mountain obtained an ancient magic treasure. Another person, Patriarch Jiu, also obtained the coffin of the young patriarch. Just because Patriarch Jiu was not a Taoist priest, the people of the Shangqing Palace dared to call him a junior. How could Patriarch Jiu, perfected being immeasurable, endure such humiliation? At that time in a battle, 7 Taoists from the Mao Shan sect followed the patriarch and broke into the mountain. They defeated 76 Taoist priests from the Shangqing Palace and made them feel ashamed. They had no choice but to agree to Patriarch Jiu's founding of the sect and rule the southeast and the heretical sects of the world. Patriarch Jiu remembered the virtue of the Shangqing Palace and honored them as the Mao Shan sect. He was willing to renounce the sect he founded as the Mao Shan sect. What kind of benevolence was that? Dragon and Tiger Mountain, Mao Shan, and Mount Gazao were the 3 talisman mountains of the Zhengyi sect. Just because of the conflict between the patriarch and the Shangqing Palace, he denounced the Mao Shan sect as heretical and could not stand side by side with them. The Qingyan Palace of Sichuan and Dragon and Tiger Mountain of Jiangxi both had perfected beings. Even the people of Mount Gazao without a perfected being dared to look down on us. The patriarch gave the temples in the southeast provinces to the Shangqing Palace. He used the heretical sects of several provinces and the heretical sects of the world as the foundation of the sect. He established the Mao Shan sect as the first heretical sect. From then on, the world called Patriarch Jiu the patriarch of the heretical sects. The Mao Shan sect is the ancestral court of the heretical sects. The world's prostitutes, beggars, dharma masters, earth masters, witches, deities, chuma masters, advisors, yamen runners, matchmakers, pawns, time demons, thieves, high platforms, boasting, circus, pushing, pool, back scrubbing, mending, sex workers, prostitutes, dog beating, oil peddlers, pedicures, hair shaving, food lifting, tailoring. All those who have magical power and Taoist magic are under the command of the Mao Shan sect. The Mao Shan sect is in charge of the laws of the lower 9 classes of cultivators in the world. Anyone who dares to do evil will be struck down by the Mao Shan sect. Today, the imperial court respects the Chuanjin sect as the orthodox sect. Nanjing's Chaotian Palace, Beijing's Baiyun Temple, Wudong Mountains Jinwu Temple, Zhongnan Mountains Chongyang Palace, Chunyang Wanshou Palace, as well as the Yuxian sect, Nanhua sect, Suishan sect, Dragon's Gate sect, Luan Mountain sect, Huashan sect, Qingjing sect, and the other 7 true sects all have perfected beings to suppress their sections. Today, the land of the north has Chuanjin sect as the orthodox sect. The 3 mountains of righteous one are holed up in their own province. They don't have the guts to fight with them. As such, when the Chuanjin sect moved south, only Patriarch Jiu could stop them. He fought with the Chuanjin sect 3 times and firmly stopped them from entering Nanjing. However, 19 years ago, during the 4th fight, Patriarch Jiu's internal injuries relapsed, and he unfortunately passed away. Shigong sobbed. At this time of crisis, when the righteous sects should have rejected the Chuanjin sect, the Shangqing Palace plotted against me. They lured the Chuanjin sect's perfected ones into the ancestral court of the Maoshan sect. Senior brothers and uncle masters fought back with all their might. The fire burned for 3 days, and the southeast wept blood. Later, when the Maoshan sect's outer sect, the 3 great witches of Miaojiang, the great shaman of the northeast, the corpse king of Xiangxi, the 2 heretical, perfected ones of southern Min, and the 2 geomasters of Guang arrived, the Maoshan sect was already in ruins. Only I, the youngest disciple who had just entered the Tao, was escorted to the secret tunnel by my senior brothers to preserve the Maoshan sect's orthodoxy. At that time, there were 19 disciples who entered the tunnel together. The fire set by those bastards lasted for 3 days and 3 nights, and 18 of us suffocated to death. I was the only one who survived the pile of corpses. After the patriarch passed away, the elders of the Maoshan sect had already anticipated this terrible situation. They secretly sent the patriarch's treasures down the mountain and hid them in this memorial hall. Later, I received the elder's will and secretly returned here. I accepted this useless disciple and lived in seclusion for 18 years. Chapter 820. After listening to Shigong Ju's bloody accusations, Wang Qin didn't feel much sympathy. Instead, he was thinking about the huge amount of information in these words. There were 3 keywords: divine Taoism, ancient magic weapon, and Chuanjin one. Divine Taoism meant that the revival of magic and power seemed to have happened not long ago. According to Shigong Ju, it should have happened in the last few decades. Grand Master Duke Jiu died of internal injuries 19 years ago. According to the time he got the treasure, practiced, and founded the sect, it should have happened in about 30 years. That is to say, the divine Taoism happened during the reign of Emperor Jiajing. Emperor Jiajing was also known as the Taoist Emperor. If the ancient magic weapon was born during his reign, it wouldn't be surprising if Taoism got most of it. According to Shigong Ju, it seems that when the divine Taoism appeared, Buddhism didn't have much influence. Wang Chen was a little suspicious. Shamans who danced as gods had power, but other religions were so calm, it didn't make sense. He had to ask about the details, slowly. Shigong Ju, Wang Chen asked, I've heard you mention Jinren many times. What is the realm of Jinren? Shigong Ju said, Young Grandmaster, the gold pill of the Chuanjin sect is self-sufficient, and the Taoist foundation of the Jingyi sect is self-sufficient. Once you become a Jinren, your natal magic power will condense into a Taoist foundation in your body. From then on, your magic power will be endless, and you will be self-sufficient. You will never have to worry about your magic power collapsing. Then what is magic power? Wang Chen was confused. Shigong Ju thought for a while and said with a frown, Young Grandmaster, when the disaster happened at the foot of Mount Mao, I just received the talisman. I only had a little magic power in my body from my master. After my master taught me some qi cultivation method, he went out to fight against the enemy. After the fire, all the senior brothers who had magic power in our sect were killed. They lost the inheritance of magic power. So you asked me, I really don't know. Received the talisman. Wang Qin frowned and said, Your magic power was given by someone? You didn't cultivate your own qi? Practicing qi? Shi Gong was a little surprised. If practicing qi can cultivate mana, why do all the cultivators in the world have to be mortal bodies before the birth of the magic treasures, pretending to be mysterious and deceiving? It's not about the revival of spiritual qi. Forget it, Wang Qin said helplessly. Your Taoist law manifestation doesn't follow the rules. Shi Gong explained. In this world, as long as there is a Tao of Chuanjin, they will need to rely on the Taoist masters to bestow their mana. The Chuanjin is known as the enlightened light, while the righteous one is known as the receiving scripture. Only those who have enlightened light and receiving scripture can be considered Taoist masters. Otherwise, even if they are Taoist masters, they are just fake Taoist masters. The imperial court recognizes them, but we cultivators don't. The enlightening talisman can't be used easily. Even those with powerful magic power, as long as they haven't become Jinren, will suffer a great loss of vitality when they enlighten their disciples. They won't be able to recover even after 3 to 5 years. Only those Jinren who are self-sufficient, have perfect magic power, and have achieved the Taoist route can easily enlighten their disciples. Therefore, if there is no Jinren, the inheritance of the sect will be cut off. They can only rely on the Taoists to enlighten their disciples with their hard-earned magic power. How can they increase their magic power? Unless, Wang Qin frowned and asked, unless what? Shi Gong struggled for a while, and then said with his teeth clenched, unless there's an ancient magic treasure passed down in the sect, like the coffin in which young Grandmaster lives, a magical magic treasure. Young Grandmaster, the world's Taoist law has been extinct for a long time. For hundreds of years, there hasn't been a Jinren or a Taoist with magic power. How can there be a world of great competition for the Taoist law manifestation? I once heard from Grandmaster Dukju that all the magic power in the world originates from ancient magic treasures. When the magic power first appeared, it was absorbed by the Jinren from ancient magic treasures. Having an ancient magic treasure is equivalent to having a Jinren, and it has endless magical uses. This is also the reason why Lower Mao Mountain has not been removed. Ancient magic treasure. Wang Qin was stunned. He looked back at his vitality chamber. He didn't see it go anywhere in the ancient times. And no matter how he looked at it, it didn't look like something that could absorb magic power. Could it be that there was some dark technology in this vitality chamber that he hadn't discovered, or that it could only be used after refining? Then why don't you use this ancient magic treasure to become a Jinren? Didn't Lower Mao Mountain leave a method to absorb magic power from magic treasures? Wang Qin asked curiously. Shi Gong's face instantly turned red. He said with difficulty, I'm useless. I've let down the grandmasters and the elders. He banged his forehead and said painfully, Not everyone knows the method to absorb magic power from ancient magic treasures, but it is widely known. How could I not know? But Shi Gong gritted his teeth and said, This technique requires a Taoist to refine a magic treasure, and he will receive the feedback of magic power. I've been cultivating for 19 years, but I haven't even touched the threshold of the Taoist realm. I'm ashamed to face the patriarch in the underworld. Shi Gong wept bitterly. It really needs to be refined. Wang Qin was speechless. What is the Taoist realm? Wang Qin sighed with emotion. First, tell me about the various realms of cultivators. You've inherited the teachings of Mao Shan sect. It's not like you can't even become a Taoist after 19 years, right? Shi Gong explained. A Taoist is only below a Jinren. Taoists have a true spirit, which opens up their wisdom, their ability to use their mana to the finest detail, surpassing those below the Taoist level by countless times. Their wisdom is connected to the spirit, and they are able to inspire the spirit in their mind. The righteous sect is able to form a Taoist talisman in their mind. For example, when I came down from Mao Mountain, the Haotian Golden Palace Supreme, Venerable Nature, Miraculous, Jade Emperor, High, Spirit Platform, True Talisman, and Longhu Mountains, Taishan Heaven, Opening Talisman, Imperial Calendar, True Talisman, containing True Body, Tao, True Talisman. Without becoming a Taoist, there is no hope of becoming a perfected being. If Chuanjin wants to become a Taoist, he has to become a Yin Master. Below the Taoist realm is the Mage realm. Taoists have a spirit, and their mana can travel 3 feet away from their body. This is the Mage realm. To become a mage, one has to first cultivate the divine sense. Those who have just received the talisman and obtained a wisp of mana can be called Taoist priest or Taoist disciple. Shi Gong said shamefully, "I've been cultivating for 19 years, but I'm still on the path of Taoism. My mana is only at the middle level. It's because the Maoshan Taoism has been lost, and the spiritual movement, Great Sage, 2 realms magnetic talisman, that cultivates the divine sense has been lost. Even the external medicine of the golden pill that cultivates mana is not enough. That's why, if I came down from Mao Mountain when it was at its peak, I had a guru's divine sense to help me condense true talismans. There were external medicines produced by various minds, and the Hall of Alchemy refined them into external pills to help me condense mana. Becoming a mage would be a piece of cake. Even if it's the Taoist realm, I should have achieved it in 19 years. Although you've made it very clear." Wang Qin sighed and said, "But why do I feel so strange?" An image of a Taoist priest inhaling and exhaling in a granary appeared in Wang Chen's mind. He felt that something was wrong all over. He thought to himself, except for the weird ancient magic treasures, everything else is very much in line with the habits of cultivators, taking pills, cultivating the divine sense, and all of them are golden pill. It's very cultivation. What else could be wrong? "Show me the external medicine of the golden pill," Wang Qin said. However, he saw Shi Gong's troubled expression. He frowned and then heard Shi Gong say in a low voice, "Young patriarch, the golden pill can only be made by a mage who is at least proficient in the Tao of alchemy and has cultivated the fire magic. I've been living in seclusion for more than 10 years. The few golden pills that I left behind have long been used up. Now, I can only rely on some crude external medicine. It's okay. Just show it to me." Wang Qin said carelessly. Shi Gong got the order and quickly took out some yellow stuff from his room at the back. He opened it and showed it to Wang Qin. "This is cinnabar. When Mao Mountain was still here, we used the best cinnabar that the Yen family offered as tribute. Now, I bought these from the pharmacy. This is mica and this is rose tone. There's also eugrain actinolite, cinnabar, red stone resin. Good heavens, tin, lead, iron, aluminum, sulfur, copper, mercury, silver, platinum, and gold, almost all of them." Wang Qin was dumbfounded. He said in horror, "That's all? Ganoderma? Ginseng? Sealwort? Haven't those Taoists and Taoists died of heavy metal poisoning after eating these?" Shi Gong was confused. "Ganoderma? Sealwort? Young patriarch, you may not know that these are all nonsense. These things can be used to make secret medicine. But if you want to make the immortal golden pill that can help improve your magic power, how can you use these easily decayed plants and herbs? Since ancient times, gold and stone have been used to make pills." Shi Gong sighed. However, the ancients did not leave behind the key points. These golden pill items are highly toxic to people without magic power. Before Taoism became divine, many people died because of it. Later, the Taoists realized that these items can only be consumed by people with magic power to increase their magic power. We Taoists who have just acquired magic power have to be careful when consuming them. This is because the poison will corrode our bodies. Only when we reach the Taoist realm and gain wisdom can we look inside our bodies and use our magic power to eliminate the poison. That's why Taoists created the recipe to make the golden pill according to the characteristics of magic power to minimize the poison. As he spoke, Shi Gong sighed. When Mao Mountain was still here, we didn't need to take these kinds of external medicine. They were all refined golden pill, which has very little poison. Our magic power improved by leaps and bounds. Now that I've taken so many external medicine with strong poison, I'm afraid I'm deeply poisoned. Wang Qin sighed. You really don't play by the rules. When Shi Gong used the secret medicine, Wang Chan was amazed that he had opened the prerequisite skills of the cultivation skill tree. But now, the skill tree was so crooked. In order to let Wang Chun understand magic power more directly, Shi Gong was ready to show him. Shi Gong picked up a piece of yellow paper and held it for a long time until his face turned red. Suddenly, a ball of flame rose from the yellow paper. It was not even as big as the flame of a magician's fire paper. Even if he used magic power, Wang Chen was speechless. It's not as good as those people who play tricks and put white phosphorus on the yellow paper. The old Taoist's face turned red. Wang Chen didn't know whether it was because he was holding his breath or because he was ashamed by Wang Chen's words. Chapter 821. Old Taoist Shi returned to his own room and searched for a long time before he finally found the magic item that he treasured as much as his life. Wang Chen took it in his hand and looked at it. It was a palm-sized bronze bell. On the outside of the bronze bell, there were carvings of dragons and tigers, mythological beasts that could suppress evil spirits. Wang Chen tossed the bronze bell in his hand and felt that it was a little heavy in his hand. It seemed that it was not just made of bronze. Looking at the inside of the bell, there were mysterious patterns of varying lengths engraved with silver thread as the core and lead thread wrapped around it. These patterns were interconnected and outlined, forming a very complex integrated pattern. This is a ritual implement. Wang Chen found it hard to believe. Shi Gong explained, Young patriarch, this corpse-chasing bell is the only ritual implement I have. The corpse-chasing bell was originally a ritual implement used by the outer sect disciples of Lower Mao Mountain to drive corpses away. Combined with the incantation, even the weakest disciples could drive the corpses away day and night, traveling hundreds of miles to provide materials for refining the corpses of Lower Mao Mountain. It is a ritual implement that every disciple of Lower Mao Mountain has. This ritual implement is widely spread, and it is not unique to Lower Mao Mountain. Although I have lost my senses, with the power of this ritual implement, I can still drive the corpses away a little. Old Taoist Shi Gong said as he pushed open the lid of a coffin. He lifted up a corpse that had been concocted with a secret medicine and ordered his young disciple to bring a few extremely tough bamboo poles. Shi Gong bent the bamboo poles into the shape of a bow and tied them to the corpse's spine, forming a bow-shaped frame to support the corpse. After he was done, there was a bamboo pole behind the corpse to support it. The corpse's legs formed a triangular frame, and the corpse's hands were stretched out flat and tied with the bamboo poles. When everything was ready, there was a spring-like frame behind the corpse. Shi Gong picked up the corpse-chasing bell and began the ritual. He closed his eyes and shook the bell in his right hand, causing the bell to make all kinds of loud and short noises. These noises were unusually messy and rarely the same. When the bell made a short, rapid ringing sound, the corpse suddenly twitched all over. Driven by its limbs, the bamboo pole bent downward, and when it returned to its original position, the corpse bounced up. It looked as if the corpse had jumped. Wang Qin was startled by the commotion. He looked at Shi Gong, who seemed to have found a key. He kept trying to adjust the frequency of the bell that made the zombies react. At this time, Wang Qin finally saw it. It seemed like the corpse pile corpse-chasing bell had a special reaction to a certain frequency and timbre. Whenever the bell sounded close to that frequency, its limbs would twitch. At this time, The corpses had been forced to jump around in the courtyard by the constant adjustment of the bell from the division master's palace. Wang Qin had already figured out the trick. It turned out that Shi Gong was constantly adjusting the tone of the bell to find the frequency that would work on the walking dead. Then he would try to adjust the frequency and tone around this frequency to test the reaction of the walking dead. Then he could shake the bell to control the direction of the walking dead, the frequency and the size of their steps, and drive them to walk freely. Is this what it means to drive corpses? Wang Qin said in surprise. The different sounds of the bells control different walking corpses. That kind of bell can only control one dead body, and the corpse drivers can transport dozens or even hundreds of walking corpses at a time. Does it mean that they also control the walking corpses one by one with the bell? Shi Gong stopped the bell and said shamefully, "It didn't need to be like this before. As long as I practiced a corpse-controlling spell, I could unify the sounds of the corpses and control all the corpses with only one sound. Now, it's only because this spell has been lost that I have to do this. Many of your spells have been lost. No, I should say, except for a few basic things. Almost all the things related to magic power have been lost." Wang Qin sighed, "And this corpse driving doesn't look like driving the corpses, but uses the elasticity of the bamboo pole to hypothesize a delicate mechanical structure, which makes the twitching of the corpses into a forward elastic force. And the method to make the corpses twitch is the stimulation of the bell." Wang Qin frowned. "I've heard of the frog jumping reaction. After the lower body of a frog is cut off, the wire of the current is connected to the frog's nerves. After the electricity is applied, the legs of the dead frog will bounce. This is a small experiment to explain the nerve reflex and bioelectricity. This corpse driving, why does it look like the bioelectricity that stimulates the corpses?" Wang Qin picked up the corpse driving bell and looked at the suspicious lines on the inner wall of the bell, his eyes more doubtful. Although the feeling of this law is a little different, the essence is the same as that of integrated circuits. This is an integrated circuit that uses different standards and even has a slightly different development direction. If we analyze it from a scientific point of view, the corpse-driving bell stimulates the residual bioelectricity in the corpses through sound waves. No, it should be electromagnetic waves, which stimulates the corpses to produce a stress response. Through the external mechanical structure, the kinetic energy of the corpse's twitching is transformed into elastic potential energy and then into the kinetic energy of the bounce. This is the secret of the corpse-driving bell. And the electromagnetic waves of the corpse-driving bell are generated by the changes in the electric current and magnetic field caused by the vibration. The timbre and audio frequency are actually a symbol of the frequency of the electromagnetic waves. Through the sound waves that people can hear, it translates the information of the changes in the electromagnetic waves. This magic instrument, made by the cultivators of the Ming Dynasty, is it also a technological product, like the Zhen song of the ancient magic treasure I have? Or is the essence of this magic instrument, the corpse-driving bell, a long-range bioelectricity stimulator that is controlled by the vibration? Wang Qin was already convinced by his reasonable and scientific deduction, but he still had a question. Then, where did Duke Jiao, a man of the Ming Dynasty, learn the technology of stimulating the bioelectricity and electromagnetic wave emission of corpses? Wang Qin couldn't help but look at his Zhen song. This magic instrument. Wang Qin sighed with emotion. Maybe I already have some ideas. Shi Gong was overjoyed. He had repeatedly demonstrated the secret arts of Mao Mountain to Wang Qin. But unfortunately, the owner of the ancestral iron coffin, the fundamental treasure of Mao Mountain, had no clue about the Taoist arts that Grandmaster Jiao had comprehended from the wondrous coffin. Even Wang Qin was a little nervous. He knew that the only reason Shi Gong and his disciples worshipped him as their grandmaster was to revitalize Mao Mountain. If he continued to be incompetent, Shi Gong would turn against him sooner or later. Although Wang Qin, who had a gun in his chest, was not afraid of this half-baked Taoist priest, he still felt a little heartache when he saw the first force he encountered after coming to this world rebelling, which was not easy to subdue. Chapter 8:22. Wang Chun had planned to let the zombie lie in the chamber first, so that he could use the data from the life monitoring program inside to find out the electromagnetic wave frequency and effect principle that triggered the bioelectric reaction of the zombie. But when he returned to the chamber, he realized that the life scanning program did not necessarily require the zombie to lie in the chamber. In fact, the monitoring of the neurobioelectricity data, whether it was the quantum bistable scanning radar or the collection nanobots in the chamber, could be easily obtained. Wang Qin pushed the zombie to the front of the silo and climbed in to operate it. Shi Gong and his disciples saw a tiny red ray shoot out from an external port of the silo and scan the zombie. Wang Chen, who was in the silo, saw a realistic projection of human data appear on the glass screen. Fortunately, the chamber was different from the cutting-edge medical equipment in Wang Chen's previous world. There were no English abbreviations and special terms. This was a pure and clean operating system in Chinese. The occasional English letters did not hinder Wang Chen's understanding at all. After searching for a long time in the data page, Wang Chun finally found the page that represented neurobioelectricity. Thanks to the idiot-like operation of the high-tech products, thanks to the operating system in Chinese with explanations, thanks to the humanized design of the chamber, Wang Chun finally tried the idiot-like scientific research. As a graduate student of the Chinese department, he might not be good at other scientific research compared to his peers in science and engineering, but his comprehension ability was completely qualified. He first determined the stress band of the zombie's bioelectricity to electromagnetic waves, then pulled up the relevant information about human bioelectricity and electromagnetic wave research inside the chamber. He determined an electromagnetic wave model that came with the chamber. This electromagnetic wave model was highly permeable to the human body, and it was the massage function of the chamber, among more than 10,000 models. This was the scientific information about the electromagnetic wave adjustment massage function. There were precedents of electromagnetic wave massage. When Wang Chan was a child, there were popular health electromagnetic wave pillows, magnetic blankets, and electromagnetic wave therapy devices that could emit electromagnetic waves to warm up the place where the massage head came in contact with. There were all kinds of civilian scientists who had successfully invented them, and all kinds of healthcare products associations recommended them. Even more recently, there were still people who would occasionally shout electromagnetic health research by the National Academy of Sciences on TV shopping channels. Finally, he used the quantum computer in the warehouse to build a complete set of electromagnetic wave interference bioelectric model. Wang Chen followed the instruction manual and used the small 5D printer that came with the warehouse. This was specially provided for the people in the warehouse to make simple tools on a relatively primitive and desolate planet. There was no doubt that the Great Ming Dynasty was such a primitive and desolate planet. The Earth before Wang Chen's time travel could also be counted as such. It seemed that, in the eyes of the manufacturer of Haigang, a planet civilization that could not smash a small cold fusion device with a hammer was not a normal planet. With Wang Chen's rudimentary knowledge of electricity, even with a 5D printer, it was already very difficult for him to print an electromagnetic wave-emitting device. At this moment, Wang Chen deeply felt his lack of knowledge and IQ. The final product was a small silver handle that looked like a flashlight. It had a switch that looked like a flashlight and a transmitter that looked like a flashlight cover. It was for the convenience of an upright ape in the pre-information age to use it the way he was most familiar with, the idiot style. After a busy night, Wang Chen finally made a magic weapon that imitated the corpse-chasing bell. He briefly demonstrated it to Shi Gong. Wang Chen shone the flashlight on a few corpses for a moment. In this world, the flashlight resonated with the stress magnetic field of their bioelectricity. Then, Shi Gong's headache of controlling only one corpse with one bell was solved. The switch of the flashlight could adjust the color of the light. When the light turned red, The corpses would stop. When the light turned green, they would go. As long as they followed the light, they could change the walking frequency and movement of the corpses. The electromagnetic waves that could cause the bioelectricity stress reaction were all controlled within the range of the green light. The darker the color, the greater the intensity, the more violent the reaction of the corpses. However, it would seriously damage the nervous system of the corpses, so the frequency should be maintained at the best medium. Finally, there was some progress in restoring the Taoist inheritance of Maoshan Mountain. But there was no time to wait. When Wang Qin finished his demonstration, the east had already turned bright. Although the old Taoist Shigong was excited, at this moment he finally remembered the trouble that would hasten his life. He said to Wang Qin, "Young patriarch, although it is worth congratulating us for restoring the corpse-chasing secret left by Patriarch Zhou, I'm afraid the people of Shanqing Palace have already known some of our origins because my disciple accidentally leaked it. Shanqing Palace covets the treasure left behind by our patriarch. They will certainly not let us go. Now that the person supporting them hasn't arrived yet, let's bury your coffin first. We'll lie low for a while. When the people of Shanqing Palace return empty-handed, we'll find a chance to take back the magic weapon." Wang Qin frowned and said, "You've told me so many marvelous Taoist methods and magic arts. If we bury the iron coffin, don't tell me those powerful people in Shanqing Palace have no way to find it?" Shigong hesitated and said, "Although the people of Shanqing Palace can guess some of our origins, they don't know that my disciple leaked the treasure left behind by our patriarch. Few people in Lower Maoshan know that the treasure left behind by our patriarch is a coffin. They found out that we have the magic weapon left behind by our patriarch. But Lower Maoshan was so glorious in those days that it must have had a lot of treasures. I'm afraid the Shanqing Palace won't go through so much trouble for it. As long as we're careful, it shouldn't be difficult to deal with it. This is only one of the possibilities. If there are no ifs, and the Shanqing Palace sends powerful people to search the memorial hall, how effective can the little tricks we left behind be? At that time, if the treasure left behind by our patriarch is lost, who can bear the responsibility? And the iron coffin is mine. I'll never give it up." As far as Wang Qin was concerned, the Black Granary might be hiding the secret of his time travel and even his return home. In the Black Granary, there were few things that could hurt him. With this escape route, Wang Qin would never risk losing the Black Granary and avoid a head-on conflict with the Shanqing Palace. Shigong's expression changed several times. Obviously, he was very conflicted. Looking at Wang Qin's determined expression, he had to bow his head and say, "As you wish, young patriarch. Anyway, if I can't defeat the Taoist priests of the Shanqing Palace, I'll go to the warehouse and sleep for 100 years." With this idea in mind, Wang Qin said resolutely, "We can't avoid the people from the Shanqing Palace, nor can we escape. The only thing we can do now is to kill them all. With lightning speed, kill the people from the Shanqing Palace to buy time for us to move the ancient magic weapon." Chapter 8:23. Hearing this, the old Taoist Shigong pondered for a long time. Fear flashed across his face for a while, and then ferociously, as if he had fallen into an inner demon. His memory seemed to have returned to that night 19 years ago, when his little disciple looked confused and didn't seem to understand what Wang Qin meant. Wang Qin just looked on coldly, but in a place where the master and disciple couldn't see. His hand holding the gun was soaked with cold sweat. As soon as Shigong said no, he would pull out the gun and shoot the two of them here. Then he would find a way to hide Guate Song, lie in it, and sleep until the 21st century. Because Wang Qin had calculated in his mind that if Shigong refused to risk his life, the possibility of success of this plan would be pitifully small. As for the other way out, abandoning Hate Song and relying on his identity as the young Grandmaster of Maoshan Mountain to roam the world, Wang Qin had long given up on this idea. Once Wang Qin made up his mind and made a choice, he would never allow himself to hesitate. When the opportunity arose, he could not make up his mind. Therefore, since he had rejected this option after careful consideration, he would no longer consider it. Therefore, he could either unite with Shirgong and the others and kill the people of Shanqing Palace when they came, or kill Shirgong and his disciple and escape into the escape capsule. Since the escape capsule had been in the hands of Master Jiu of Maoshan Mountain for so many years, it might be possible to continue to wait for an opportunity in Shanqing Palace. Sometimes one's path was not chosen by oneself, but whether one could do the best or not depended on one's own ability. This was the situation for Wang Qin at this time. Shirgong's attitude determined whether he would take the risk or retreat, but whether it was the former or the latter, he must be fully prepared. If he wanted to take a risk and kill the enemy, he had to first create an internal cause. By eliminating internal contradictions, he could solve external contradictions. This was what Wang Qin learned from the Majia theory in college. For some reason, these memories were especially clear at this critical moment. Wang Qin vaguely remembered that in the early struggle history of a party, a leader had put forward a series of tactical ideas. It mentioned that most of the contradictions in the world were composed of internal and external causes. Generally, they could be eliminated by solving the internal cause. The way to solve the internal cause was to continuously clarify and refine the cause of the problem and the various steps to solve the problem. If a problem needed 100 steps to be solved, then one step at a time the problem would be solved. From a philosophical point of view, this method was to start from the actual object, to explore the internal relations of things and the regularity of their development, and to understand the essence of things. Simply put, it was to seek truth from facts. If Division Commander Gong wavered and could not make up his mind to fight to the death, then Wang Qin would have a fatal weakness in terms of intelligence, organization, and execution. As long as Division Commander Gong hesitated at a critical moment, he would be dragged into a bottomless abyss. The foundation for the execution of the entire plan would no longer exist. Even if the chief palace was determined, he still had to carefully and conscientiously collect information, formulate a plan, and carry it out step by step. In this way, even if things developed into the worst situation, Wang Qin could still escape unscathed. If the division commander's palace wavered, in that case, Wang Qin also had a job to do: erase all intelligence and information about himself. To ensure the greatest degree of his safety in the Black Barn, it was best not to let the people of Shanqing Palace know the truth, especially the fact that he had been awakened. In that case, Shanqing Palace, who had learned the key information, was likely to spend a great deal to find a way to get Wang Qin out of the Black Barn, although it was very likely that they would be doing something useless. Wang Qin could not give them this reason to bear such a risk. In that case, Division Commander Gong and his disciple must die. Wang Qin carefully observed Division Commander Gong's every move, coldly calculating the possibility and plan of his sudden attack to kill the master and his disciple. He silently thought about the route to dodge and retreat, and analyzed Division Commander Gong psychologically and physiologically. Old Taoist Shirgong could not imagine how harmless he was. At least, he did not show much lethality. The mysterious immortal from the upper realm, the young patriarch of Mao Mountain whom he had just worshipped, was coldly thinking about how to kill him. In fact, Wang Qin had considered all the things that he had never thought about. In particular, he had used his identity to establish a psychological blind spot for old Taoist Shirgong, causing him to die even more unprepared. Shirgong had fallen into a nightmare. His whole body was drenched in cold sweat. Apparently, what happened 19 years ago was still haunting him like a nightmare. His eyes turned white and his body trembled. Suddenly, he screamed, which made Wang Qin almost pull out his gun. But what he shouted was, "Kill them!" With tears in his eyes, Division Commander Gong kowtowed and said, "Since the young master wants to kill the people of Shanqing Palace, Division Commander Gong will do it. As long as the incense of Lower Maoshan still exists, it doesn't matter even if I die. I should have died 19 years ago. Now I live like a ghost every day. It doesn't matter if I die. I have long wanted to run away. It's just that the inheritance of Lower Maoshan is more important than my life. That's why I've dragged out an ignoble existence until today. Now, the inheritance of Lower Maoshan is gone. The hope of reviving it is like a candle in the wind. Even if I run again, how many times can I escape? I still have the magic scrolls of my senior brothers and martial uncles, which have the power of Lower Maoshan. But my disciple only has the magic scrolls that I barely imparted to him. His magic power is mixed, and he can't even master the few remaining spells. Today, I lost the magic treasure of the founder. Tomorrow, I'll lose a few more spells. In a few years, when I die, Lower Maoshan will be gone. Just like that. Today, the young master has the hope of reviving it. I'll give my life to accompany him. That's good. Wang Qin loosened the grip of the gun in his hand. His finger on the trigger did not move, but only made a virtual pull. He looked into Division Commander Gong's eyes and asked in a deep voice, "Since you're so determined, do you dare to make an oath in front of me to Master Gongjiu?" Without hesitation, Division Commander Gong pointed to the sky and swore, "Master Gongjiu, Disciple Division Commander Gong. Today, for the inheritance of Lower Maoshan, I, Division Commander Gong, will fight to the death with Shangqing Palace. If I die, my soul will ascend to heaven and follow the founder into the netherworld. Although I have no words to say, I will show my loyalty and not make Lower Maoshan lose face. Even if I'm lucky to survive, I'll fight with my broken body to show the orthodoxy of Lower Maoshan to the world. May the founder bless me. If I break this oath, I'll never be reincarnated." "You're indeed a loyal man," Wang Qin praised. At this time, he knew it was time to make a promise to Division Commander Gong. "Heaven above, I, Wang Qin, swear today that I'll do my best to make Lower Maoshan prosper in the world. If I break this oath, let me die in the alley, and my soul will never be able to return." Wang Qin swore. He and Division Commander Gong looked at each other. Nothing needed to be said. After eliminating the biggest conflict between the two of them of mutual distrust, Wang Qin decided to solve the remaining internal factors one by one. First, he said to Division Commander Gong, "That disciple of yours didn't keep his mouth shut, which led to Lower Maoshan's disaster. I know you and he depend on each other for survival and have deep feelings for each other. But his temperament is unstable, so he can't be entrusted with great responsibilities. In the future, when he inherits the orthodoxy, he'll have to go through all kinds of tests. Now that the great event is at hand, you need to keep an eye on him and not entrust him with any important tasks." Division Commander Gong kowtowed and promised. Wang Qin continued to instruct, "You've been running this place for more than 10 years, so you must have some connections and people you can trust. You must also have some understanding of the enemy, Shangqing Palace, which is nearby. Tell me clearly about the manpower and intelligence, how to set up the guard, find out the news of the people from Shangqing Palace, and grasp their movements. I'll arrange them one by one. I don't know much about the magic arts of Taoism, so you need to do as much as you know. Moreover, before the troops and horses move, the provisions and fodder must be prepared. Whether it's a big battle between two armies or a small battle like ours, logistical supplies must be collected and prepared. The silver you've saved for more than 10 years is our biggest reliance this time. You should know that in this world, silver is more powerful than magic power when used well. So, whether it's cheating, burning, killing, or looting, you have to gather all the silver I want." Division Commander Gong had never seen Wang Qin act so neat and tidy. Inexplicably, he suddenly had confidence in this immortal, who had always been unreliable. At least at this time, Wang Qin's performance was reliable and firm, which greatly eliminated Division Commander Gong's worries. He replied, "I've been running this place for dozens of years, so I can take out 1,859 taels of silver. If it's not enough, there are a few other big families nearby, and I also know them very well. When the time comes, I can kill their whole families. Even tens of thousands of taels of silver will not be a problem." At this time, Division Commander Gong showed a fierce look. showing some of the ruthlessness and determination of the Taoist priests of Maoshan Mountain. Wang Chen raised his eyebrows, a little not used to such a decisive killing. But he was also a person who had experienced the end of the world. This conflict with the world view determined by the influence of public opinion and education in the past 25 years. He just raised his eyebrows and let it go. He even deliberately made himself more cruel and selfish. He just said calmly, "In front of the enemy, if it's not necessary, there's no need to make more twists and turns. We don't have much time left." Division Commander Gong nodded and said, "Yes." But the key to the art of war lies in intelligence. The second is the ability to execute, and the third is the degree of preparation. Division Commander Gong, find me all the people you can control. According to their degree of trust, let them watch all the roads leading to this place. Once there is news of people from Shangqing Palace coming, send various signals. The importance of intelligence depends on the enemy and us. Our advantage is that people from Shangqing Palace come from other places, so they don't know your background and have no ears and eyes here. But if we let them meet with the local residents of Shangqing Palace, they will have a channel of ears and eyes, which will be very difficult to deal with. Moreover, we know nothing about how many people from Shangqing Palace are coming, what realm they are at, and how many magic they know. This is a big taboo in the military. If we want to get these two forces, the first is to eradicate the residents of Shangqing Palace. One is to interrogate them for information, and the other is to cut off their ears and eyes. Chapter 824. The abbot of Shangqing Palace's side courtyard is surnamed Jiang, and people call him Taoist Priest Jiang. Like me, he's also a Taoist disciple and Taoist priest who has been enlightened. Shangqing Palace doesn't have many spells, and most of them were imparted by Patriarch Duke Jiao. Perhaps 19 years ago, he received some secret teachings from our lower Mao Mountain. But the Shangqing Palace is a righteous sect. Of the few true arts that we have secretly passed down from Mount Mao, poison, venom, corpse, curse, and talisman, I reckon that they only dare to collect talismans. However, they were already proficient in the most powerful of the Taoist techniques of the Taoist priest realm, the thunder arts, before they plundered us from Mount Mao's true teachings. Taoist Jiang and I have been neighbors for more than 10 years. According to my investigation, he only knows a few talisman spells and swordsmanship, but I have never heard that he is proficient in thunder magic. The side yard of Shangqing Palace on Mount Phoenix is a small Taoist temple with a total of 3 Taoist priests. In addition to Taoist Jiang, there are 2 Taoist priests who receive Taoist scripts. They only practice some martial arts and know a few exorcism talismans. They are people who follow the Taoist rituals and etiquette, so there is nothing to worry about. In addition, they also keep 8 thugs called Taoist soldiers and outer disciples. They practice martial arts and have a rough understanding of swords, weapons, fists, and feet. Wang Chen asked Shigong to write down everything he knew in detail, and he even drew a map of the Taoist temple on Phoenix Mountain to study. He found that the most difficult thing was not to kill Taoist Jiang, but to keep it a secret. It was extremely difficult for the 2 of them to capture all the Taoists in the side yard of Shangqing Palace. Perhaps only when the whole Phoenix Mountain was locked down by the army could they have a 100% chance of success. But what Wang Chun lacked the most was people. Shigong could fool those stupid men and women to get some information and monitor the road. But if he wanted to take them to kill people, they were not enough. He raised this question. Shigong pondered for a moment and suddenly raised his head. Every morning and evening, especially the morning class, all the members of Taoist temple have to go to the main hall to chant scriptures and listen to the master's lecture. Then we'll catch them all at once. Wang Chen made the decision. As for the defense, the Taoist temple was not a military camp, so the Taoist priests of the Shangqing Palace would never expect that the remnants of Mao Mountain would dare to come to the temple like the Division Commander Palace. So the defense was certainly inadequate. This was also where Wang Chen's advantage lay. As long as the preparations were perfect, He believed that it would not be difficult. After a moment of contemplation, Wang Chen asked again, "The external disciples of the Shangqing Palace are skilled in martial arts. Getting rid of them is like cutting off one of Taoist Zhang's arms. Do you have any good ideas?" Shi Gong pondered for a moment before replying, "We can use lightning techniques." He knew that Wang Chen did not know Taoist magic, so he explained in detail. The ancient necromancers could make the sound of thunder when they made elixirs. After the Taoist magic manifested, they used elixirs as the foundation and refined it with magic power. When the gunpowder turned into thunder, it was called fire thunder. The fire thunder was the lightning technique, which was very convenient to eliminate evil and protect the Taoist doctrine. Taoist priests could even kill Taoists with lightning techniques. The imperial court used gunpowder as the army and appointed Taoist officers to control it. In the past, when Xiaobai rebelled, Li Rusong put down the rebellion in 3 months with 300 soldiers of the mighty army with guns and fire thunder. When Neon invaded Korea, it was Li Rusong, Ma Gui, and the others who used Pingbo, Jinyuan, Yushu, Shenshao Dadong, Shindu Polaris, Tai, and other divine thunders to obliterate hundreds of miles in the sea battle. Countless Neon battleships were sunk, which made Neon terrified. The king of Neon sent a letter to the head of his general, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, asking for his surrender. Wang Qin felt a little dizzy. Putting aside the miraculous changes of the Taoist priests becoming firearms experts and the Taoist temples turning into arms dealers, he could ask about what these Taoist priests and Genren had done to the little girl in history later. The most important thing now was that these Taoist priests and Genren had imitated the god race in the Ming dynasty. Bang! Bang! What level did the Taoist priests upgrade the gunpowder? And what was the role of the magic power? Wang Qin felt so confused that he had to start from the beginning. "Do you know Thunder Method?" Shi Gong said respectfully, "I know a little. Thunder Method is forbidden by the imperial court. Among the 5 elements of thunder, Mao Shan specializes in Gui water, heavenly thunder. Fire thunder is the foundation of Thunder Method, and everyone knows a little. But I don't know the first wood thunder, 7th gold thunder, and 5th earth thunder method." How to refine Gui water, heavenly thunder? Wang Qin asked in a low voice. "Now, are you sure you can refine it?" Shi Gong said in a low voice, "The key to refining Gui water, heavenly thunder, is genuine water. Gui water is the thunder of genuine water. It uses myriad thunder water as the base and bone-corroding real water. Using magic power to control these 2 kinds of real water to refine cotton, you can get morning jade thunder. Using myriad thunder water to refine fat, you can get North Pole thunder. Using myriad thunder water to refine earthly Een real water, you can get interior realm thunder." Wang Chen was a little confused by these genuine water, but he still wanted to give it a try, so he asked Shi Gong to fetch the raw materials to refine the heavenly thunder. Shi Gong was a little embarrassed and said, "It's difficult to refine genuine water, and even more difficult to preserve it. Young patriarch, please give me some time and allow me to buy the necessary metal and stone medicines to refine it." Wang Chen just said lightly, "Sure, but you need to remember that the lives of you and your disciple are tied to this. If you are 1 step late, there will be people from Shangqing Palace to deal with you, even without me punishing you." Shi Gong knew what was good for him. He had his own channels for the metal, stone, and medicine he needed for his cultivation, so he took the silver and left. When the sky was bright, he came back with a horse carriage with a lot of metal, stone, and ores on it, and even 2 slices of pork. Shi Gong ordered the 2 foolish men who followed him to cut off the fat on the 2 slices of pork and use them to refine oil. He carried a bucket of mysterious liquid and carefully carried it into the house. When he opened the lid, Wang Qin smelled a pungent smell and asked Shi Gong again. This was the bone-corroding real water he mentioned just now. Shi Gong explained, Bone-corroding real water was called green vitriol in ancient times because it could only be made with rice vinegar and green vitriol before the Taoist magic showed its divinity. Later, when bone-corroding real water gradually became an important external medicine for Taoism, immortals used secret methods to extract this real water from iron ore. Speaking of iron ore, Wang Qin suddenly realized that this thick liquid seemed to be odorless, but it had a faint, special, stimulating feeling. Wasn't it sulfuric acid? Wang Chen's face was blank. He pointed at the bucket of sulfuric acid with impurities and asked, "Is this the bone-corroding real water you mentioned?" Shi Gong didn't know why he asked this question, so he answered uneasily, "Yes. It's really bone-corroding." Wang Chen's tone was slightly cold, and he continued to ask, "Then is the all-transforming thunder water also extremely corrosive like the bone-corroding real water, and it's made by refining saltpeter?" Shi Gong answered in surprise, "Grandmaster, you're right. That's true." Wang Chen said excitedly, "Calling nitric acid all-transforming thunder water is really creative. Nitric acid is the mother of explosives, and almost all explosives need to undergo nitrification. No wonder it's called all-transforming thunder water. Using oil to undergo nitrification. Isn't that nitroglycerin? Arctic true thunder nitroglycerin? What's earthly Yin water? Is the interior true thunder picric acid or RDX?" Shi Gong answered in confusion. "The earthly Yin water is refined from the mysterious Yin evil spirit, which was called petroleum in ancient times, fierce fire oil. It's condensed from the mysterious Yin evil spirit underground. It's like oil, black and thick, and it burns when it meets fire. Petroleum!" Wang Qin gasped. "The cornerstone of the chemical industry. You've all learned how to refine petroleum. Refining the mysterious Yin evil spirit can produce several kinds of true water, but it's controlled by the imperial court, and only a few top-secret mines can produce it." The way Wang Qin looked at Shi Gong was as if he was looking at a living god. Only now did he understand why it was written in the Taoist scripture of the thunder method. A legal force is uncontrollable, and mortals who practice it will be smashed to pieces. It turned out that the Taoists were all people who refined nitroglycerin explosives by hand. Even with this level, they were still a group that needed the government to maintain stability and unity in the 21st century. The style of the Taoists in this world seemed a little wrong. Thinking of this, Wang Chen felt his feet go numb, and he almost wanted to run away. Anyone who had a Taoist priest beside them who was using concentrated sulfuric acid to process saltpeter to prepare the 10,000 transformation lightning water, nitric acid, and who was refining grease, preparing to undergo a saponification reaction, and then using the 10,000 transformation lightning water to refine grease to produce the North Pole true thunder, nitroglycerin, would have this reaction. Chapter 8:25. Although the ancient books claimed that supernatural power could greatly increase the stability of the Northern Pole true thunder, nitroglycerin, this kind of extremely unstable liquid explosive that would explode under the influence of gravity and at a temperature of 130 degrees Celsius, still made Wang Qin avoid it. This thing was extremely unstable and difficult to transport. No wonder these Taoist priests did not dare to carry the true thunder with them, even though they knew that the thunder method was extremely powerful. Shi Gong said that the thunder method was extremely difficult to practice and extremely dangerous. Generally, only Taoist officials at the level of Taoist priests dared to practice it. Very few Taoist priests were proficient in the thunder method. Moreover, the external medicine needed for the thunder method of the 5 elements, including all kinds of true water, true gold, true earth, and divine iron, were all things controlled by the imperial court and were extremely precious. If it were not for the fact that Shi Gong had a lot of connections and was most familiar with these unorthodox methods, it would be absolutely impossible for him to get these external medicine needed for practicing the thunder method unless he was a Taoist official of the imperial court or a Taoist priest from a few major sections. It was said that the divine thunder of annihilation refined by Zhenren even required the use of luminous pearls and several kinds of extremely precious spirit stones. The most remarkable feature of these spirit stones was that they could emit all kinds of brilliance in the dark. They were extremely precious and were the natural ingredients and materials used by Zhenren to refine their supernatural power and refine the divine thunder. Ordinary people would be in danger of dying if they even saw it, let alone touching it. Zhenren controlled their flying swords and beheaded people from thousands of miles away. Some even carried the divine thunder on their flying swords and released the thunder from thousands of miles away, which could corrode hundreds of miles away. The reason why the several Grandmaster Zhenren of the evil sects could make the imperial court wary of them was largely because of this. Of course, this was not the only thing that made the imperial court wary of Zhenren with their great magical powers. In the great Ming dynasty, only the sects led by Zhenren could be rewarded by the imperial court. These were the reasons why they were born. These rumors made Wang Qin feel even more strange, especially the one about the divine thunder. Shigong once mentioned that the Zhenzhou women were savages who once got the 13 mechas from outer space to start an army and pillaged the border of Zhenzhou. Zhenzhou women rebelled from time to time, but under the leadership of Li Chengliang, the valiant general, when Wang Gao, the powerful chieftain of Zhenzhou, rebelled, Li Chengliang slaughtered all the people and animals in his tribe. His son wanted to avenge his father, but he was killed by Li Chengliang again. None of his descendants survived. Only the slave chieftain, Wild Swine Nuerhachi, was originally a slave of Li Chengliang's adopted son. Because his father was mistakenly killed while leading the Ming army led by Li Chengliang to quell Wang Gao's rebellion, Hachi searched for Liaodong and found 13 mechas from outer space. The Wild Swine Nuerhachi was killed by Li Chengliang when his father was killed by the divine thunder when he led the Ming army to quell Wang Gao's rebellion. Li Chengliang searched Liaodong and found 13 mechas from beyond the sky. Then he rebelled against the Ming dynasty. At the beginning, he attacked the city and broke the stronghold with great momentum. The imperial court ordered 6 Chuanjin Jinren to bombard Liaodong with the divine thunder. They destroyed more than 20 cities of Zhenzhou Nuji with the divine thunder. The cities were destroyed by the divine thunder, and the bodies of Zhenzhou Nuji were burned to ashes. Nuerhachi wore the divine armor from beyond the sky, and only 6 people followed him. The imperial court only found 6 broken armors in Zhenzhou. In the past few years, there had been no news of him. It is said that the reason why the imperial court made such a big fuss was because of the 13 extraterrestrial heavenly armors that Nuerhachi found. I once heard from the patriarch that the reason why the imperial court of the great Ming dynasty could suppress our Taoism and the heterodox and evil sects in the world was not only because our Taoism regarded it as the orthodoxy, but also because the imperial court had obtained the arsenal of the ancient Holy Emperor and heaven and earth. There were many Holy Emperor armors that were not inferior to our Taoism's ancient magic treasures. There were also magic treasures left by mighty people like Guangchengzi. In terms of foundation, they were not inferior to Taoism. The brocade guards of the imperial court monitored the world and guarded against the Taoism in Jianghu. They were guarded by mighty people like Zhenren. Later, when Taoism entered the imperial court and Taoists became officials, they were even more powerful. Young patriarch, although the imperial court is bloated and slow, if we really attract the attention of the embroidered uniform guards, they might be even more difficult to deal with than Shangqing Palace. Shi Gong was a little worried, but he was not very nervous. He sighed and said, "Fortunately, the embroidered uniform guards are more afraid of the Chuanjin Taoism than us. As long as they don't touch the nobles of the 2 capitals, the aristocratic families will not be a problem." There were some things in Shi Gong's words that he did not make clear. However, Wang Chen was a master of literature who was familiar with history. Combining it with the political situation of the Ming dynasty at that time, he quickly understood. The embroidered uniform guards and the east and west factories did not cause us trouble. I think there are more reasons than these. Maybe we even have a tacit understanding with them when we leave Mount Mao. Shi Gong raised his head in surprise. How did you know that, young patriarch? The politics of the imperial court is nothing more than the imperial power and the prime minister's power. The embroidered uniform guards are the emperor's men, and the east and west factories are all eunuchs, who are also the imperial power's lackeys. Then, how can the officials in the imperial court keep the emperor in check? Wang Qin sneered and said, on one hand, they will be a hindrance. On the other hand, they will take advantage of the emperor. But these are all small branches. Fundamentally, we need to have a Taoist power that can keep the emperor in check. Chuanjin Taoism and Jini Taoism are originally rooted in the local areas, so it is easy for them to unite with the gentry. The local gentry and the court officials have a close relationship, although there are differences such as tax collection, but they are like lips and teeth, and it is time for them to unite and fight against the overly powerful imperial power. Shi Gong sighed and said, young patriarch's eyes are sharp. Although you have been trapped in the coffin for decades, you can talk about the world as if you are reading the lines on your palm. But there is one thing. Patriarch asked me before, do the Buddhists have any divine sense? I answered that there is none. But there is one party, although not belonging to the Buddhists, they have a close relationship with them. They are also one of the forces after the divine sense. This is the evil force that is on the same level as Mount Mao, the White Lotus sect, also known as the Luo sect. The White Lotus sect is half Buddhist and half Taoist. I don't know what kind of opportunity they have, but they call themselves the Ajati matriarch, who descended to the world to teach the people. They have also produced many great divine sense of the Jinren generation, and they are called messengers. The White Lotus sect has 12 messengers, and 6 of them have been confirmed by the embroidered uniform guards, including a leader and a saintess. There are actually 8 Jinren. Speaking of which, they are just below the headquarters of Chuanjin Taoism, and are slightly more powerful than Jini. However, they claim to want to overthrow the court and build a Buddhist country on earth. They really have a hometown, which is a big problem for the court. They are the main enemies of the East and West Depot, the embroidered uniform guards, and the imperial army. They have been repeatedly suppressed, and a few messengers have died. Now, there are only 6 messengers. Although the imperial power is strong, there are civil officials and gentry colluding with Taoism, and there is the rebellion of the Luo sect outside. They even want to pacify the borders from time to time. Naturally, they look down on the unorthodox sects like us. Sometimes they even use us to discuss the real Taoist sections. Shi Gong sighed and said, however, the number 1 sect in the world is still the imperial court. Although the Luo sect is strong, it is only a small threat. If it is not for the gentry and civil officials who secretly hold them back, their situation would be 10 times more difficult. The imperial court, Taoism, Luo sect, and the Jurchen. Wang Qin took a deep breath and said, it is indeed a grand world. After the divine Taoism manifests, it is actually so exciting. As exciting as it is, that is a matter for the future. Shi Gong bowed and said, young patriarch, the most important thing now is to eradicate the phoenix and go to the Shangqing Palace's side yard. With the embroidered uniform guards and the 2 depot keeping them in check, the Shangqing Palace will not be able to send any powerful people. This is not a difficult task. But if the fact that we have the treasure left behind by Patriarch Jiu is leaked, we will never have a day of peace. At that time, the various forces of the imperial court and the messy sects of the Luo sect will come knocking on our door. Wang Qin stood up and tiptoed to pick up a bag of white floating soil. He threw it to the old Taoist Shi Gong and said, first, by some external medicine, according to this. Shi Gong said doubtfully, this white calamity soil is used by the kiln factories to make porcelain. In the Taoist sects, it is only used to make glaze. It can make the green glaze clear. What is the use of this? Wang Qin came to the front of the silo and said in a low voice, just do it. I have a kind of thunder magic that needs it to be refined. He thought to himself, "Do you think I will tell you that I have been using the radar on the silo to analyze the raw materials you have brought? Diatomaceous earth. I remember that this thing is produced everywhere, but the best is in Jilin, which is now Liaodong." Who would have thought? With the Taoist magic and the commodity economy, even this thing has become an elixir and is sold everywhere. As a student of the Chinese language department, I do not read many scientific materials, but I have read a lot of stories about famous people. I still remember that after Nobel invented nitroglycerin explosives, because nitroglycerin liquid was not easy to transport, he later invented a safer gelatinous explosive. Diatomaceous earth was the stabilizer before he invented the gelatinous explosive. There is also nitrocellulose, which is also the true morning thunder. After being immersed in nitroglycerin, the colloid formed by nitrocellulose dissolved in nitroglycerin is called explosive glue, and it is also an important raw material for gelatinous bombs. Wang Qin sighed. In this era where there may be people making nuclear bombs by hand, if I do not risk this 50 kilograms of meat, I can forget about being a time traveler. Chapter 8:26. The morning stars twinkled above the Phoenix Mountain, and the full moon hung high in the sky. It was a beautiful day with clear skies and sparse clouds. The mountain path twisted and turned across the hill. The dewy weeds wet Wang Chen's shoes. Wang Chen was carrying a cyan cloth package. Inside the package was a small square cake wrapped in the wrapping paper of the most famous Jinji pastry shop in Suzhou, gelatinous explosives. This made Wang Qin look like a scholar carrying snacks up the mountain, if his short hair was ignored. The finished product of the gelatinous explosives was a pale yellow powder. After mixing with nitroglycerin, it could be molded into a mud like flour. Although it looked like a pastry, it still had a faint smell of chemical raw materials. Wang Qin covered the real bombs with icing and even added some rich spices to cover it up. Wang Qin felt regretful. If he had more time, when he made the cream, it would be more convenient to cover it up with the framing of Western-style pastry. Now these real bombs looked delicious, and no one would doubt it if he said they were new products of Jinji pastry in this small town where traffic was not developed. Shi Gong followed Wang Qin along the path. Today they were going to do a deal of extermination, so Wang Qin had to be cautious. He was a new face, and although his short hair was a little eye-catching, the Taoist temple was not the government, and they would not stop and interrogate people. A short-haired stranger going up the mountain in the early hours of the morning was a little strange, but compared to the conspicuous target of Shi Gong, it was not a big mistake. After all, the Taoist priests of Shangqing Palace had never seen Wang Qin. If they could recognize him, it would be strange. The gun in Wang Chen's arms was pointed at his waist, but it gave him a strange sense of security. Wang Chen recalled the last memory he had before he traveled to this world. Blood, fire, women's cries, men's wails, and the sounds of smashing and shattering glass. Those familiar people were lying in pools of blood, being baked by the increasingly hot sun. And those cannibalistic corpses. To this day, he clearly remembered the strange feeling when he swung the iron rod and smashed the head of the corpse, whose throat was exposed to the air and had a rotten smell. At that time, he was bitten on the shin by an irritable and crazy rat. He seemed to have contracted some kind of virus. His head became heavier and heavier, and his body began to heat up. However, he could not treat himself. After leaving the neighborhood, without the protection of the walls, the first thing they had to face were the rampaging animals and corpses on the streets. The survivors gathered in a remote building in the community and formed a temporary group, waiting for the government to rescue them. Gunshots kept ringing in the distance, making them afraid, but also bringing a little bit of comfort. Originally, an injured person like Wang Qin should be receiving care and treatment in the rear. The survivors collected the medicines that they and their neighbors always had, and a doctor set up an emergency room in the rear. However, when the disaster broke out, it was the working hours. The survivors in the community were old and young, and there were too few men in their prime. Wang Qin had to join in the cleaning up of the rampaging pet dogs and corpses in the community. At the very least, he had to block the gate of the community and create a second line of defense. Wang Qin did not know the cause of the disaster. He only heard that other than their city, the rest of the country was still under the control of the government, and there was no great chaos. There was also no news of a plague that could make the animals go berserk and the dead come back to life, just like the zombie virus in science fiction. This was also the reason why the survivors had the confidence to hold on until the government came to rescue them. The radio kept reminding them to go home and form an organization to wait for the rescue. Perhaps everything originated from the meteor shower that spread all over the world on the night of December 21st. The meteorite fell in Canada within the Arctic Circle. It was said that it was an ice-based meteorite. After it disintegrated in the atmosphere, some of its fragments scattered, and one of the fragments fell into the sea near the city where Wang Qin lived. Wang Qin learned this from his friends in the group chat. Some people joked that they wanted to become meteorite hunters and search for precious meteorites that cost tens of thousands of yuan per gram. However, others immediately retorted that even if the ice-based meteorite did not burn to ashes, it should have melted in the sea. That night, the sky was as red as blood. Wang Qin's thoughts were a little far away, but when the side yard of Shangqing Palace appeared in his sight, he was still a little absent-minded. He clenched the hard wooden stick in his right hand and felt that it was heavy, a bit like the iron stick he used that day. This thing looked like the crutch used by scholars when they climbed the mountain, but it was the third weapon in Wang Qin's hand. He carefully wrapped the head of the stick with a circle of iron, hoping that the center of gravity would be more balanced when he swung it. Wang Qin waited patiently in the woods outside the side yard of Shangqing Palace for a while until the morning bell rang faintly. Only then did he feel his way to the left side of the gate of the Taoist temple. The Taoist temple was built along the mountainside, and Shinggong had explained the terrain and layout of the temple to him very clearly. Wang Qin easily found a place that was easier to climb over the high wall with the help of the mountainside. He clumsily climbed up a tree and climbed over the wall. The side yard of Shangqing Palace was built along the mountainside. More than a dozen courtyards of different sizes and winding corridors were scattered according to the terrain. However, the Mountain Gate, the Three Pristines Temple, and the Yellow Emperor Temple were always built on the central axis, solemn and solemn. They were low at the front and high at the back, and the difference was even 3 or 4 stories high. First, he had to go to the fireworks yard. The Taoist fireworkers had to heat up the fire before they could go to the main hall, the Three Pristines Temple, to attend the morning classes. When the host of the morning classes recited scriptures, they had to drink tea and hot water. They also had to wash and clean. The outer disciples and ordinary Taoist children could use cold water to cope with it, but the 3 true Taoist priests had to send hot water. Therefore, the fireworks yard was the busiest yard in the Taoist temple for the morning classes every day. At this time, the hot water for washing should have been sent out and the water for the morning classes should be boiling. The Taoist priests were very quiet. In the fireworks yard, the 3 Taoist priests were busy adding firewood and boiling water, but they were orderly and silent. Although the Taoist priests in the fireworks yard were thin, their arms were full of muscles. Every day, they carried a kettle that weighed dozens of kilograms and ran around. Anyone could have a body full of muscles. Shinggong also specially told them that if they could avoid killing people, they should not kill those Taoist fireworkers. After all, there were incense burning. Patriarch Dukjio was also a Taoist fireworker in Shangqing Palace in the past. It could be seen that the work of the Taoist fireworkers and the fireworks monk was a crouching tiger and hidden dragon. They were probably second only to the librarians of the Sutras Depository. After all, the ancestor of Taoism, Laozi Taishang Laojun, was also the librarian of the National Library of the Zhou dynasty. Wang Qin picked up the iron-clad heavy stick and waited quietly at the corner of a corridor next to the Institute of Pyrotechnics. when a Taoist priest carrying a large hot water teapot came out from inside and hurried downstairs, Wang Chun went around to the back of the Taoist priest, stood on his tiptoes, and smashed the back of the Taoist priest's neck with a heavy stick. The Taoist priest fell down the stairs together with the teapot. He seemed to be scalded by the hot water, twitched twice, and then passed out. Wang Chun flashed over from the side, carried the unconscious Taoist priest, and threw him into a wing room not far away. He hesitated for a moment and finally did not break the poor Taoist priest's neck. Most of the hot water in the iron kettle was spilled, but Wang Chun still carried it and went straight into the fireworks yard. The two Taoist priests were still busy boiling water, and Shingon had already followed them. Wang Chun winked at him and went straight into the yard. The two Taoist priests heard the noise and looked up in surprise. When they saw a strange scholar, one of them immediately stood up and asked, "Scholar, where did you come from?" Wang Chun pretended to clasp his hands and said, "I'm a scholar passing by. Because I love the scenery of Phoenix Mountain, I just asked the abbot to let me stay for a day." "Then you have to." The Taoist fireworker in front wanted to say something, but Wang Chun had already approached him. Shingon had already sneaked up from behind when Wang Chun attracted the attention of the two Taoist priests and hit the back of the carotid artery of the Taoist priest behind him. Wang Chun pretended to be shocked and pointed behind the Taoist priest. When he turned his head to look, the heavy stick had already hit his head. Shingon sneaked up in silence. He chose a Taoist priest with a similar figure to him and began to strip off his clothes. Wang Chun turned around and tied up the three Taoist fireworkers with a cowhide rope brought by Shingon. He also stuffed a mouthpiece with a condom into their mouths, which was also brought by Shingon. Wang Chun knew that stuffing a rag or something like that could be pushed out with the tongue, so the mouthpiece was more useful. So he also made a few and used them on the three Taoist fireworkers. As for the people behind him, Wang Chun did not want to trouble them so much and let them live.